Center and KETV News Watch 7.
A warm start to the week Monday. Expect mainly sunny skies for most of the day with south-southeast wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Highs in the upper 80s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
1620, The Zone. Traffic.
From the Plum Right Time Saving Traffic Center. Good morning, happy Monday. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. It's quiet start to this morning in the Omaha Metro. There's no accidents or delays to report, so everything's pretty much smooth sailing for the time being. But if anything changes, I'll keep you updated throughout the rest of the morning once traffic starts picking up. Be sure to buckle up, drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time saving traffic is brought to you by Hometown Hero Appliance Repair.
Servicing all major appliance brands for over 30 years, you could trust Hometown Hero to treat you and your home with respect. Hometown Hero techs are factory certified and have the skills to quickly diagnose and repair your appliances. Visit hometownhero.repair.
For 48 straight years, Ford F-Series have been the best-selling trucks in America. We got here by engineering breakthrough technology, redefining Built Ford Tough, and never settling for second best. But what's really made Ford F-Series the #1 selling trucks in America is you. Ford F-Series, Built Ford Tough. Based on 1977 to 2024 calendar year total sales.
Nominations for the Step Forward Awards are now open. These awards are the state's most prestigious awards for volunteerism, and we need your help to find outstanding volunteers from your region of the state. If you know a volunteer who deserves to be honored for their service, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Nominate Now. Nominations must be submitted by June 1st. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
That charming aroma wafting through the old market? Oh yes, that's Chibo Vino. While your kitchen spaghetti might be a classic, your taste buds deserve a symphony. Indulge in the joy of savoring life one delightful meal at a time. With our warm, friendly environment, every bite feels like a mini vacation. And with warmer weather, you can't beat our outdoor patio. So before you settle for ordinary, visit Chibo Vino and let us transport you to Italy at 11th and Jackson or at ChiboVinoOmaha.com.
I'm Omaha Athletic Director Adrian Dow, and I want to introduce you to 3 Omaha schools that are playing a vital role in keeping our community strong. We serve nearly 600 pre-K through 8th grade students, most of whom come from disadvantaged neighborhoods. These students receive a values-based education with the family support they need. I'm a proud member of the CUES Fund Board, which supports the CUES school system. To learn more, go to CUES Schools, that's CUES schools.org.
Nothing says summer like America's pastime. Chase the fun when the Omaha Stormchasers take the field at Werner Park all summer long. For schedule and tickets, go to omahastormchasers.com.
Everyone get on your feet, stir up the storm with family.
When you stay in your home, what you love gets to stay too. From the gardens that grow wild to the grandkids that run wilder. From the Friday night baseball games to the Sunday morning brunches. Even the daily crosswords and weekly book clubs. There's room for it all with help from Home Instead, the largest in-home senior care network with over 30 years of trusted experience delivering the peace of mind you deserve. Visit Home Instead online for a better what's next.
The Zone Hotline is powered by Prairie Flower Casino. Play longer, win more.
When it comes to preparing for a crisis, it doesn't matter if you're a year early, a month early, or a day early. But you can't be a day late. That's why millions of Americans trust My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest preparedness company. Right now, you can get their 4-week emergency food supply, plus an incredible bonus, 4 free 72-hour food kits. That's an extra 12 days worth of food, absolutely free. This kit provides hearty, delicious meals for 4 weeks with 2,000 plus calories per day, 12 essential vitamins and minerals, and a shelf life of up to 25 years. And for a limited time, they're including 12 additional days of food absolutely free, which means right now is the best time to get prepared. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com today to claim your 4-week food kit, plus an extra 12 days of free food. Offer ends soon. Shop MyPatriotSupply.com today. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Good morning.
A couple of $5 Monopoly 10X scratch tickets from the Nebraska Lottery, please.
Yes, sir. I don't mean to pry, but why are you wearing a top hat like Mr. Monopoly?
3 reasons.
Okay.
First, it matches the mustache.
I noticed. What is that? Cardboard with tape on the back?
Yeah, less work than actually growing one, right?
Okay, makes sense.
Second, if I enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online before July 22nd, I have a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. And the top hat would be a great place to carry the cash. Lots of room, you know.
I get that.
And third, I think top hats are making a comeback.
That's where you lose me.
Enter the Monopoly Second Chance promotion from your Nebraska Lottery by July 22nd, 2025. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/radio, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication should be free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferys at John Higgins WeatherGuard.
Hey, it's me, your liver. You know, the organ that helps you recover every weekend after pizza, donuts, and all those drinks. When you have a headache, you take an aspirin. You have a stomach ache, you pop an acid. But where's the love for your best buddy, the liver? The least that you could do to help me stay healthy is take Active Liver from New Nordic. Active Liver tablets contain high-quality, all-natural ingredients like milk thistle, globe artichoke, and turmeric extracts, which are proven to keep me healthy and you feeling your best. Active Liver provides an easy daily detox and helps protect me all year long. So let me make you an offer you can't refuse. You take care of me with Active Liver, and I keep taking care of you. Capiche?
See for yourself why Active Liver is Scandinavia's #1 liver health supplement. You can find Active Liver at CVS and online at Amazon or directly from NewNordicUSA.com. Again, find it in stores at CVS or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
1620 The Zone.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. Time to kick off a new week. The whole gang is back together. Jimmy is back in studio with some news to share.
Yeah. Oh, he got a new job. No, I got a new friend in my kidney.
What is
Nothing
that?
like that.
What'd you have? What'd you have in your kidney?
A kidney stone. I don't recommend it.
My dad.
Shout out pain meds.
My dad had kidney stones before we went to our European vacation.
Oh,
I can
relate to this.
Yeah? Didn't end up going on the European vacation. He stayed up on the bed for 2 weeks, and then we went one place, and we came home. We had everything planned. We were going to go to all these different countries. Kidney stones. Bang. Ruined it all.
Very relatable. Yeah, so in my travels, I didn't get a chance to see the horseshoe. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's grand. But I saw wonderful urgent care. Shout out to the Ohio Health in Hilliard, Ohio. So
how long were you knocked up in Columbus this weekend?
Yeah. So I flew in Friday night, and Saturday was the day. Saturday started off great. Having a cup of coffee. I told you my friend has a putting green in his backyard, so we're out there,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, you did not share that news with us, but I'd like to hear more.
Yeah, so we're out there, and you would have both been proud of me.
Sure.
Apparently, I have a gift for putting, so it's time.
Like
to take
Tiger
up golf.
Woods-ish?
Yeah. And so about an hour and a half into the morning, getting into cup number 2, I broke into a cold sweat and started violently shaking. And my friend's wife is an RN, and she's like, we need to go to urgent care. So yeah, that was fun. It was a nice 4 hour. They hooked me up. I look like damn RoboCop with all these things.
Have you passed them?
No.
Wait, you haven't passed the kidney stones yet?
No.
So this is like your flu game?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My point is, and I did bring this up to my wife, I'm still here.
Okay.
That was never a doubt. I wasn't coming in today.
Wow. You said that to your wife?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean,
But you're at the radio station or?
no,
Oh,
that
you didn't
that
die.
no. Yeah. Well,
Oh,
that, and I
fair
said,
enough.
no. She goes, are you going to go to work Monday? Hell yes. That's what you do. I'm functional.
Hell yes, you do, because it's going to be another busy week.
I can't believe you're here. I thought you passed them.
No.
So you could just
No.
pass them at any point during the show?
Yeah, that might be some content. We'll see. But
What's the drugs that you're on?
Yeah.
we got our good friend Mr. Percocet. That'll be when we get home, because you don't want that now and driving a car. And I think right now it is I think it's codeine. So either way, I was in pain when I got here.
You got like the hat trick
I
of
was about
I'm
to
no
say.
longer in pain right now. So
You
they
and
said
Jordan Belfort are on the same menu right now.
But yeah, I wasn't gonna call in sick. No.
Good on you.
Yeah.
You go to work when you're a grown ass adult.
Tell that to a lot of other people out there.
I got a cold and
I
I
am.
called in sick.
Exactly. That's my point.
I had a
You
really-
talked about a stroke on the air, like I was gonna miss for a kidney
Hey,
stone. Come on.
That second half in Brookings, I wasn't going to miss due to a stroke.
Exactly.
Well, I got a really bad cough on a Sunday, and I go,
You stayed home.
I'm going to be really tired.
But
It's
it is
gonna
good to be
rough
back. The
show.
weather's fantastic. That's not the drugs talking. It was beautiful. It was great when we landed yesterday.
Oh,
90, no humidity.
absolutely.
Hell yes. So.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It
Oh, and
is
the draft
a-
lotteries tonight. That's what Matt reminded me.
This is a huge night.
Massive day.
See, this is a big sports week. This is a really, really good sports week because the weather has turned. It's like in the 80s now, so you can get outside. There's no threat of severe weather. But first and foremost, everybody have a good Mom's Day. Everybody wish their mother that or moms that are with us a happy Mother's Day and took care of them appropriately, I hope.
Tough one for this is the first Mother's Day I've missed in a while. So I gave her. We had a nice convo. She had a brunch. They took her out. They
Okay.
treated her well.
Nice.
So she had
called
a good day.
called grandmother. Grandmother went to the lunch as well. So they had a great time. And then I just sat back on my Mother's Day and watched NASCAR and basketball and had a incredibly calming Sunday.
Ridiculous that NASCAR runs on Mother's Day. They used to not to. But they got that there were a lot of empty seats in Kansas yesterday.
So I saw that. I was kind of surprised at the fact that, like, I don't know, NASCAR, I feel like the fact that it's like once a week and there is a pretty like big fan base around
Yeah.
it and it gets a lot of coverage, I would feel like some of these events
Usually
are
it
like
does well
more
down
full
there.
than what they usually are. But like, so great point. I was thinking this while I was watching the race. None of them, I didn't see any like pink stickers on the car or anything like that, or like any of those
mileage?
like cool little things that they do to like honor Mother's Day. Like it was a weird event. Also, it was a really boring race.
Yeah.
It was a really, really boring race. Shout out Kyle Larson though, mixed sportsbook cashed.
Not as bad as that
So-
Cavs Pacers game.
I thought we weren't going to do this.
No, I saw him qualifying, and I was like, he's got the fastest car in the track, and he made pole. It was plus 320, so I just threw a nice little tenner on there. It covered my round of golf for the weekend.
Yeah,
It did.
I don't know what happened. And I know they expanded the schedule in NASCAR, but they
Yeah.
used to not run on Mother's Day because that was a big holiday to get away from the track. But running on Mother's Day and the Kansas Speedway is a great place.
It
There's
is.
a lot of access to the drivers, and it's a comfortable place to watch a race. There were so many empty seats, more
So
empty
many.
seats than I've ever seen at a race at the Kansas Speedway. So
That's
I got
sad.
to imagine it is a big reason is Mother's Day. Now
Probably.
another big reason is I think NASCAR is struggling. I think NASCAR
Yeah.
is really struggling to
I-
find its foothold and to grow its base, and maybe grew too much.
Well, I know that there's a lot of. First off, it's hard making money as a team in NASCAR
It is expensive.
with all the rules and the sponsorships that you have to get, and like just making it. And I've watched these videos about how just making a profit is incredibly difficult, and there's a whole problem that NASCAR has as an organization. But I think they like a lot of sports right now, and because I've noticed this, and I was watching UFC on Saturday too, like they really don't have a superstar. Like there are multiple sports right now that we have that don't have that true number one top guy. You think of the sport and you think of that player, you think of that athlete immediately. I think they were hoping that that Bubba Wallace was going to be that guy, and he got the McDonald's sponsorship and all the national attention, but he hasn't won enough to garner to be that superstar. And, they have some guys who are pretty damn good that are consistently good, and Larson and Logano and Bush, but they don't have like that personality that a lot of people like, that a lot of people want to relate with. And so I think that's a big reason why they've kind of just been stuck a little bit. Also, too, F1, whether you like the sport or not, has risen in popularity at a wild rate that I think that people are kind of finding their fix.
Do they share?
I think they,
because the ratings for the Miami F1 were way down.
So
and it kind of snuck up on you.
I think, well, first off, I think that F1, especially early in this season, because a lot of the races begin at like 5 a.m., at 4 a.m. And then when that calendar flips, it's like, oh, I didn't know that we were like in the afternoon. At least that's what I thought with F1 with the Miami race. Regardless of that,
aren't they only in the afternoon when they're in the U.S. or Vegas is at night?
Yeah. When they get to Canada, I think they're at like
or
12
Mexico.
o'clock. Or Mexico, they're at like 12 o'clock. But I don't know if they share. I don't think they share an audience.
No.
But I think if you're new to racing, right? If you're like, oh, I want to get into watching cars go fast, right? What are you more likely to start watching, NASCAR or F1? I don't really know.
Which one does NASCAR have a Netflix series? Because that's what they need.
I think they're getting one.
It's a great idea.
Formula One grew in this country because of Netflix. I don't think Formula One would have come to Austin, Miami, Vegas if the Netflix special had not grown Formula One in this country.
So NASCAR is going to get a Netflix series, Full Speed. There's 2 seasons of it already. So they already have it.
Whoa. People that watch NASCAR on TV, and I dabble. I watched part of the race yesterday, but I don't know that I've watched from start to finish a race that's not Daytona in a long time. Is people that watch, man, they take it out on their announcers. Like Mike Joy's been doing it forever.
Yeah.
Legend.
Every week I see on Twitter that people just rip Mike Joy and the way it's covered. And last week they showed all the cars crossing the finish line. This week they only showed Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
So NASCAR people have thoughts, but man, they should not be running on Mother's Day. And I feel bad for the Kansas Speedway because that's a bad look. That is a bad look when they show Kyle Larson coming around the final turn.
And it's all green.
And it's all those empty seats
Well,
that you see like when there's no race there and you're driving like from Omaha to Lawrence and you're on the turnpike and you're like, look at that. That's a pretty cool structure. That's what it looked like yesterday with some fans.
That's not good.
And
that's very not good.
Yeah, Mother's Day probably is a day to avoid because that's always been special in that sport. But hope everybody took care of their mom. You let her sleep in, filled her up with some margaritas, maybe even in bed. I know my mom always enjoyed when we gave her an hour of serenity.
Nice.
When she could, she didn't do anything on Mother's Day. And we just said, you know what? You can have 1 hour. Go out in the back patio, just chill, whatever you'd like to do.
What a great gift.
Beverage of your choosing.
We'll give you 1 hour. We don't bother the heck out of
it. That actually might have been her best gift. Now, her gift to us was all the sports stuff.
Sure.
But our best gift might have been like, Mom, it's your hour. Go do what you want to do. Okay?
You get 1 hour a year.
She's like, thank God. Do I get the keys to the car? So happy birthday to all the moms out there. Coming up a little bit later on the show, Evan Bland will join us from the Omaha World Herald. The lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Nebraska baseball tied for 9th going into the final week of the regular season. Creighton has a chance to win the Big East. Omaha got qualified for the Summit League tournament. It is also schedule release week.
Yes.
We've already had one this morning. Jimmy?
What happened?
September 4th.
Oh.
You've got the Eagles and the Cowboys
are going
to, according to multiple reports, will be the opening game.
That's actually awesome.
We also heard, and I like that the NFL craps on the Chargers because I think this is appropriate. I don't know why you'd ever allow a division home game to be taken somewhere else. So the Chargers and the Chiefs are going to play in Brazil. Great for the Chiefs. You don't have to go to SoFi.
No.
But if I'm the Chargers and that is a home division game and they moved it to Brazil, hope that check cashes. But there are more announcements of the NFL schedule coming out today. NBC, Fox, and Amazon, I guess, are going to release a game or two. It is also Cooper Flag Night.
Yes.
What are probably the consensus number ones of late? Cat and Zion?
Zion was number one. Cat, for sure, was consensus number one. And then I think we went a little bit without having one, and then it was like Anthony Davis, early 2010s area.
So
yeah.
the Cooper Flag Lottery is tonight. It's the 40th anniversary of the NBA lottery.
How about a Ewing theory?
Well,
Hey, with
how
all the
about
twists
a
and turns.
repeat of history?
Well, Derrick Rose, you had the same percentage of chances? When you
yeah.
got Derrick Rose in 08, 1.7%?
Well, I think Rose was 1.3, not if we're getting technical. But I really hope that they are going to rig it for us. I really do hope. I really hope they rig it for somebody. Right? I don't care who they rig it for. Rig it for somebody. I don't want to see Cooper Flag in Washington. I don't want to see Cooper Flag in Charlotte. I don't want to see
Which actually
Cooper
I think is the
Flag
best fit for him.
in Utah. Okay. And the reason why is because if I don't want to see him there because I'm not going to see him. I'm not. I mean, it's just, I understand they tried this. So like when Zion went to New Orleans, they put all the national games in New Orleans, right? Like they're like all of a sudden New Orleans.
And by the way,
went
he
from,
could end up in New Orleans.
Yeah.
They got what, 10% chance?
12.5% chance. That it's,
I wish all the other teams the worst. I
Here's-
just want my team to do well.
it's really, really hard for a prospect like that to like fight through being in a small market. Like Cooper Flag is going to have to be an absolute consistent superstar for years and years to get the proper attention that he deserves if he's in a small
What if he's Shea
market like that.
Gilgeous-Alexander, who's going to win the MVP
Or
in
Tim
Oklahoma
Duncan
City?
or David
But
Robinson.
I don't even feel like we don't talk about Shea Gilgeous-Alexander as much as we should, in my opinion.
We talk about him during the NCAA men's basketball tournament, those AT&T commercials. We talk about him.
But not in a basketball sense. Not in like this guy's
Isn't that what the
MVP,
NBA is?
This guy
we don't talk about NBA doing NBA things. We
I
talk
know.
about NBA guys doing things that are not NBA.
I know. But I just think I want Cooper Flag to end up at San Antonio.
Me
I
too.
want it to happen.
Aw, see,
I
he just
think
wants
it
to be
would
my
incredible.
friend.
No, I'm not being nice. I'm not being
I'm
nice.
gonna buy you coffee when I'm back to normal.
The NBA needs a Wembanyama, Cooper Flag, get together, holy crap, Hogan and Savage superpowers type franchise. That's what they need. I mean, it'd be really good. Be really good for them. Put more interest back.
Why is Jimmy moving back to San Antonio? Did he get a broadcasting job? No, he's gonna work at a grocery store. It's just got to go see the Spurs.
You know where he's going to end up?
Where's
outside of the three that have the best chances?
Don't you dare say it.
Say it.
Philadelphia.
They want a new arena.
This is a big night for
Hey.
Philadelphia because if they fall out of the top six, Oklahoma City gets that pick.
Oh, really?
They would.
Yeah. Like Oklahoma City needs more picks.
So 76ers are 5th. So I guess it could have. I don't know. I'm just looking at the straight percentages.
Well, usually the team, it's very rare that the team that has the best odds gets the pick.
Yep.
I mean, look at
Every
out of
time the
nowhere,
Spurs
out of
won.
nowhere last year.
Atlanta.
Hello.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's a little low, if I'm being honest with you. Like, to go 17-65, like you won 17 basketball games. That is so bad.
That's not a lot.
And you only have a 14% chance of getting the first overall pick. 14%? Like, that is ridiculously low.
Be better.
Yeah.
Well,
Win games.
yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a difference. You might as well win 26 and have a 9% chance like Brooklyn, who I wouldn't mind if Cooper Flag went to Brooklyn. That'd be
25 years ago, they won the lottery and it changed their entire franchise. They turned things around.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're all right, you got we'll talk when Evan joins us.
Sure.
Of course, Nebraska baseball, but also a little football now that we're smack dab into the off season. But speaking of baseball, so the weather has turned around here. Now it feels like late spring into summer. It's starting to warm up and get a little bit of tan. People are outside. People are in a lot better mood. The birds even sound better in the morning when I go out to go to my garage.
Yeah.
I can hear the birds, and I'm like, they sound even better. We'll hope another year. Jimmy has been with me long enough that the birds in my tree do not come back, so that I do not have to have violence on them.
You walk out, you're like, oh, they don't sound depressed. They sound like they're happy.
very, very happy. But you know what I'm not happy about? So college baseball, like that, is over.
Yeah.
Nebraska will get to play in Omaha, more than likely. Omaha will still play in Omaha in the Summit League. You have Omaha and Creighton tomorrow night, but Creighton is done. Creighton goes on the road to Georgetown, and then they go to Ohio. So the college baseball season essentially is done around here, except for the Big Ten, the Summit League, and then, of course, the College World Series.
Yeah.
And there have been a lot of people that have raised concerns that the sport is becoming one-sided.
Sure.
Look at softball, by the way. 7 of the top 8 seeds are from the same conference. Wait till baseball announces their field, 3 weeks from today? Or 2 weeks from today?
It would be 2 weeks, right? Because
no, 3 weeks from today.
3 weeks? Okay.
3 weeks from today on Memorial Day when they have the selection show. So college baseball has become one-sided.
Sure.
It's very much a Southern sport. You sprinkle in a little UCLA, maybe a little bit of Oregon, some teams from the ACC. And they've always talked about moving the season back instead of having it start in the middle of February.
Mm-hmm.
That's never going to happen in my lifetime. It just will not happen. I think it's more likely that the gap between the haves and the have-nots in college baseball get enormous.
Right. Sure.
And some people say, it's not really worth it. But here's your argument for college baseball moving the season back is this weekend. So finally around here, the weather turns.
Yeah.
And what do you have? People want to go to the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
You got 6K down at Haymarket Park. You got at least 4K every day, 2 night games and a day game downtown. Tal Anderson had great crowds this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The weather turned. If that's what I'm making a case, because I'm sure they made, all 3 schools made a little money at the gate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sucks, is that the weather has turned. You want to go watch your favorite team play, and the season is essentially over.
Yeah.
Look, baseball is better in shorts and a t-shirt as opposed to sweatpants and a hoodie. I mean, that's just what
That
it
might be
is.
some of your best words you've ever said.
I mean,
that is great knowledge.
Just when you're in February and you're March, and it's like I went to the Omaha, Nebraska game early in March this year, right?
Yeah.
It was windy. It was like severe weather. I mean, it was kind of coming in. It looked like it was going to rain at one point. Like it just, when you can have a beer and the sun is like coming down on you and you get a little bit of a burn and like you can have you can enjoy yourself, right, at a baseball game. It's so much better than when like you have to like zip up and you rather have a cup of hot cocoa as opposed to a nice brew. Like it's just, I don't know. And also too, the whole, so like we're getting to the point with college football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we're almost like, we joke about it, but it's like we're kind of separating the school. We didn't come here to play school, right? And it's like, if we get to that point in college football where the academics don't really matter anymore, and it's more so about, hey, you're going out on the field and it's about the product, and like we're not putting that pressure on the athletes, I don't see any reason why we can't move the college baseball season back a little bit. Just because if we start the trend of like, hey, it's about the sport, it's about the money, it's about the fan experience, it's about the TV, and we start ignoring the academics for the football side, I just feel like we could do that too for baseball, because it would benefit greatly if for the Midwestern teams, if we could start the season in March. I know that, what do you say? You don't think it'll happen in your lifetime, and I know you have better knowledge on it than I do in terms of that. But if we start trending in college sports where it's like, all right, it's more about the sport and less about the academics, if we get to that area, I feel like we can do that with baseball.
I don't like the comparison between football and baseball because they're on a whole different planet.
Sure.
Because they're at least even the lower teams in college football and the power conferences spend money to compete.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they spend money to compete in baseball. Look,
yeah,
a lot of them now with expanded rosters will not have a full complement, and they're more likely to say, "Nah, we're good.
Yeah,
we're good. Do we need to play baseball at this level?" Now, what I think can help baseball, again, the weather was great. It looked, if you watched any highlights from Lincoln, Omaha, ×2, at times it looked like SEC home games where the stands were packed. It was intense. It was fun. It was a good atmosphere. That's what the SEC looks like every weekend.
The stories you tell about Nebraska Creighton at Rosenblatt, that's the kind of weather.
Yeah.
There.
And that's
I get it.
And that's what you saw this weekend. And, Nebraska and Creighton won 2 of 3 this weekend. Highly competitive, exciting, good college baseball games. I just don't, I think there's enough schools out there that look at baseball, especially in this part of the country, as an afterthought, that they're going to be like, nah, we're good. We would never vote for that, even though our coach wants that. And I don't know, would we want the College World Series in the middle of July around here? I think we'd have a little fatigue. I think here in Omaha, we look at it, it comes at the right time, because then we got a month, 6 weeks before school starts. We go on vacation. We shut her down in Omaha in July. Then we'd have no off time.
It's a good
point.
point.
It'd be year round, because you'd go from July, and then what starts in August? College football.
Well, I think so too. It's like the College World Series with its date, right? Kids here, when do they get off of school? Like early June
couple
1st?
With a couple of weeks.
Really
usually
like late
either
May?
before Memorial Day.
Okay. Well, I think you're right on the fact that the College World Series is a good date, because you get out of school, right? The kids get out of school, summer starts, and then 2 weeks later, we're right into it, right? And it's almost as if like the CWS is like your beginning of summer. And then you're right, you have that kind of like cool down period. But I think like I just think if the overall health of the sport of college baseball would be better, would be benefited if we pushed it back an hour. I think we're not an hour, pushed it back a month, the start of the season 1 month. I think that we would just have to live with the CWS being in July. Like, I agree that it probably is better in June as opposed into July. But if it's for sure, like, everybody agrees, hey, if we begin this season in like the middle of March as opposed to the middle of February, it's going to be better for everybody. I think that's just one of those things where you just have to take it on the chin and do it. But it's like,
take it on the chin and do it.
Like, in terms of having the CWS in July as opposed to June, like, that's just something you would just have to sacrifice.
The power broker, though, in college baseball lives in the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they aren't going to change anything to level the playing field.
No.
I mean, that's why I'm worried if you're the Big East and you have a little bit of a loophole when it comes to revenue sharing because you don't have football, how soon before Greg Sankey says, hold on here, just a moment. We're going to make sure that the old Big East basketball schools don't have an advantage.
Yeah. No.
So it's never going to happen. And I know because the John Anderson who pushed that big time from Minnesota retired. He wanted college baseball in the fall, which was an absolutely ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
But it makes you think about this weekend when the ballparks around here are packed and it's fun and you're paying attention to college baseball and then it's over.
You only get 2 weeks of it. I mean, seriously, we've had 2 weeks of good weather now back to back, like since the beginning of baseball season, and now we're just absolutely done with it. I was at Creighton. I was at the Creighton baseball game on Friday and Saturday, and legitimately had a great time watching just college baseball with that.
The
weather,
atmosphere
with
looked great.
The atmosphere was incredible.
What about 4,000? They were like good crowd, energetic.
It was a really energetic crowd, and I was sitting, in front of some people who weren't even from in town. They weren't even from Omaha or Nebraska. They were just in town for a tournament, like a softball tournament, and they were like, "Yeah, we just thought we'd come in and catch a baseball game." Like, that's just like that's baseball, right? You're just walking around, you see the beautiful Charles Schwab Field. You're like, "Oh, I bet a team is playing today. Let's go in. Let's watch the baseball game." Like that. The fact that you only get that for like 1 week or 2 weeks, or whatever it may be, it's just a bummer.
There was a lot more around the college baseball. Also, college softball is good. Nebraska has a destination. Omaha has a destination. The road to Oklahoma City, which used to be the road to Omaha to play at Seymour Smith Park in the College World Series, Women's College World Series. I think that's where it was at back in the day.
Yes,
we had the longest game in the history of the Women's College World Series. But the Mavs are going south, and the Huskers are going even further south.
It's a good way of putting it.
As they found out their destination. So we'll get into that. Plus, the playoffs have been some good, some bad.
Well, which ones? NHL playoffs, fun. NHL playoffs, good time. NBA playoffs, meh. If that.
Early bedtime last night with my ailments was aided by an awful basketball game.
Well, that was a Mother's Day mauling that might have Tyrese Halliburton playing in more conference finals in his career than the entire Clipper franchise. Just wrap your arms around that. All right, we're off and running on a Monday. Glad to have you in, kicking off another busy week. When we hear a game released on a scheduled release, because I saw on the Today Show, NBC is I think probably will release their Sunday night game coming up today. We will break into programming. Because that's what we do. Because it's schedule season. NFL this week, college football sprinkled in, and then more next week. We have officially reached peak off season.
I hope you like lists and schedules and power rankings and a bunch of these players are bound to take the next step next season, because that's what we're going to be doing all the way up until Arrowhead.
There's Matt, there's Jimmy, I'm Gary. It's Gary and Matt on a Monday on 1620 The Zone. Jimmy, Sean can relate to you on Twitter.
Yeah, he scared me.
Maybe you'll get lucky like I did and get a stint put in. That's fun stuff for your kidney stone.
I just the lots of water and the pain pills, and let's call it good and let it do its thing.
My dad's a kidney stone got stuck in his wherever it passes through. What is it, the gallbladder? But it literally got stuck, and then they had to go in there and they had to zap it with an electrical thing, and then
although
it
at least it'd be
up and then you
gone.
pass it. So not to freak you out or anything, I still can't believe you're here.
Why?
Because you have
go to work.
kidney stones.
You go to work. I'm able to talk to you right now. I'm able to press buttons and stuff. And no, I'm gonna call in. The only time I've missed work here was COVID. Because you have to.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I was good enough then, even that. But you just don't come in.
We're the working. I don't think you were working here during COVID.
No, but I got it the first year I was here, and we went to the bowl game in Memphis.
Oh, that's
because
right.
that was the
That's
DeMar
right.
Hamlin, and then we came back to work, and
that's right.
We're the working man show here. We're the Bartolo Colon of radio shows. Just inning eaters. We just eat innings.
So what happened to you?
Yeah, like I said, he literally has a stroke during a game and finishes the game, which I'd have done the same damn thing because that's what you do.
I almost passed out at a Walmart. I feel like that's
because you had a cough.
It was a bad cough.
I almost
man.
passed off at
It was
the
a
urgent
really-
care
it was a
because I was
really bad cough.
in bad shape.
And a fever of 99.8.
I went to my first 5 years at St. Pius. I never missed a day. And there was somebody that went through all 8 years and never missed a day of school.
Wow, shout
Like
out
they
to
had a
you,
big
sister.
celebration at the end of the year for her. I'm like, you know what? I put in a good 5 years. I was like, I'm good. Here's my thing about missing work, though. Sure. When you don't have kids, that seems to be the cop out. Like, hey, the kids are sick, so I can't come in. I've worked with some people.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You're listening right now.
When am I?
That you had kids and you're like, you know what? They're sick. I can't. So I get penalized because I don't have kids.
So
wait till I adopt a Sudanese 6'11" power forward, and not that he's sick, that we have to make school tours to go see who's recruiting him.
Wait till I end up being the parent of the number 8 prospect in the country, and we gotta go to UCLA, we gotta go to Georgia, we gotta travel everywhere. I had one of my first bosses said to me, "You know what? It's car problems." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's always car problems. If you're ever late to work, if you're ever late to anything, it does not just tell somebody my car's broken or my car won't turn on or I have a flat tire." He goes, "No one ever questions it. They just go, 'Oh, okay, yeah, figure it out. I hope you figure it out.'" And then they'll be like, "Oh, did you fix it?" And all you say is, "Oh, yeah, I brought it to the mechanic. It's over." One of my first bosses told me that.
See, back home, there was a Whataburger commercial that when you're running late, pick up some taquitos for everybody at work because everybody loves that guy. No one's going to be like, "Hey, he's late. Hey, he brought breakfast."
Good point. That's elite.
That's a smart move.
That is.
If
Why are you
late
late? Getting
for
breakfast?
a meeting? You walk in with donuts.
Yeah, anything. But yeah,
I've never thought of that. That'd be elite.
That is a power move.
Yeah.
What if I showed up here at 6:20, but I showed up with donuts? Can I earn myself 15 more minutes of sleep that way?
Would this be a daily occurrence?
We can negotiate.
Plus, I've been told to avoid those.
What if I get once a week, every Friday, I get 15 extra minutes of sleep, but you two get donuts?
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't know.
one time it'd be
Yeah.
fun.
Okay.
Part of what I was reading about this thing, they said donuts are not recommended for passing it. So
I get a donut hall pass. Okay.
but it's for everybody. That's the thing. It can't be just for the show. You have to.
You'd have to do it for the whole
Oh.
building.
So I have to get like 36 donuts.
Do you know that about right?
We have 36 people working here.
Well,
Just
two for
think until
everybody.
noon. Like the afternoon guys, they don't need donuts.
Donuts are expensive now. I got 50 munchkins.
Everything is expensive.
A couple of weeks ago. It was expensive. Expensive.
50?
I don't know. Donut holes.
Did you eat them
man.
all?
No.
Just you?
Well,
Did you share
I
with
had
your
about
roommate?
half.
Okay.
To
be young again.
All right, we're in the radio business. This is a special anniversary today because back in 1979, if you watched WKRP, and maybe this applies a little bit to your situation, Jimmy, of being, kidney stone and trying to.
God is my witness. I thought turkeys could fly.
Well, remember, this was the day, 1979, that Johnny Fever showed up, hung over, and did whatever the F he wanted on radio.
But he went to work, is what you're saying.
But he went to work.
He went to work.
That is true. Again, the story of the morning is that the Super Bowl champion Eagles will open against the Cowboys. It makes the Giants fans out there happy. They will not have the Giants and the Cowboys opening up the season, but you will get Thursday night football. You will get the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, and that will be a ratings thing. I like this from the standpoint that it seems like later in the year we have more Cowboys-Eagle matchups, and either Prescott or Hurts are out of the lineup.
Yeah,
now we're guaranteed to have both of those guys on opening night in Philly.
I also think so too.
I'll knock on wood.
There were a couple times. There were a couple times last season where I thought towards the back half, like it just seemed like there was a stretch of like 3 or 4 weeks where we got bangers of like games in the NFL. And I was like, I would really appreciate if this was more spread out through the entirety of the year, that it wasn't like, all right, I just want to make it to October, and then I got to suffer through like every week we have to see the Browns play like the Colts or like some sort of like adjacent matchup like that, where I like this because I feel like the NFL tries to hit you with, all right, this is going to be an awesome like game of the year. This is exciting.
Like a division game to begin the year.
This is, I like this. This is like, it's going to be competitive. Undefeated. The Eagles are going to win, but it's like, it's going to be fun. It'll be a one possession game. And then the Cowboys will make a really, really bad mistake in the fourth quarter that only the Cowboys do. And then the Eagles will go ahead and win. And we'll all say, wow, they're primed for a repeat.
Eagles win 31-10. I don't know where this fourth quarter mistake. There'll be first quarter mistakes.
It's week one.
Exactly. There'll be a midseason form.
Now that the Bears aren't going to kick off the season, I do not want them to have a primetime game. That's
at all.
No,
the whole season. It'll be a Sunday or Monday night.
Week one, I do not want a primetime week one game for the Bears. All right, the Bears are going. It's week one. Historically, they look terrible. I don't need anybody. I don't need the national media watching the Bears on week one. I don't want it.
Monday Night Football.
I want them to go under the radar. I want them to play their game at 12 o'clock against, just a mellow opponent.
Chicago
and then you'll
Detroit.
look at the box score like, oh, they won. Good for the Bears. And then we just move on to week two.
On a college level, the word on the street over the weekend is that NBC's first pick in the college football Big Ten draft will be Oregon Penn State, to guarantee that it is a whiteout.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be good for Penn State. They didn't really get a whiteout last year, right? Wasn't they?
They did, but it was Washington.
Yeah,
I think it was the Washington.
Then they
game.
tried it for Ohio
because
State,
they wanted Ohio State, but Ohio State became a big noon, and I think it was Washington that they had their whiteout. But word on the scheduling street, and I got to clear this with Joey, is that NBC's first pick will be Oregon Penn State. It's
good for
that game can be a whiteout. Well, it'll be you could have preseason number 1 or number 2 team, and then Oregon top 10 to begin the year?
I think so.
Okay.
I would say so.
So that'll be a banger. That'll be one of the better matchups in the Big Ten.
It's probably, I would say that Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, you can probably put those 3 teams in a 1, 2, 3. I would probably put either Oregon, Ohio State 1 or 2. But I think that would be a good first overall pick there. And like to have it as a night game as well. Like once again, and I know
for the Big Ten.
I just think it's one of those things. I understand like in the grand scheme of things, it's not like the biggest deal. Like they're going to play the games and like the teams are going to be the teams. But last year in the Big Ten, there were a lot of really, really big games that took place at 11 a.m. or at 12 p.m. And it just Ohio State.
There was one team playing that is vehemently against playing all the 11 a.m. games again.
And it
killed their atmosphere at the Horseshoe.
And I just think that, and once again, I'm not saying that every big game should be a night game. Like there definitely needs to be like a flow of like, oh, this is early, this is late, whatever. But we got to the point last year where there were just way too many big games at 11 a.m. And I think also too, like when you have a big game later in the day, especially in the Big Ten, like you're kind of building up towards that, right? You're watching other games, like waiting for the Ohio State Penn State game to be played at 6 o'clock. When Ohio State versus Penn State gets played at 11 a.m., that game's over at 2 o'clock. You're kind of like, all right, like, yeah, how much attention do I really want to pay to Maryland and Rutgers?
But that's on the
PM?
Big Ten, though. The advantage of having 3 networks spread out so that you get all 3 windows, you have a banger.
Banger.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that's the advantage of what the Big Ten has gone to. So you don't have that lull when you get from the 11 a.m. big game on Fox to the 2:30 CBS. Now,
look at USC Michigan. That
CBS
was
last year had a kind of a wonky schedule, and I wonder in the second year of them doing the draft, if they'll be a little bit more
If they'll
aggressive.
adjust.
But that's, the UFL is a prime example of where we are going in terms of our football viewing. The UFL puts so much money into the national marketing that they forget about the local.
Yeah.
That's why you have 4,000 people that show up in Birmingham. They don't market inside of Birmingham, even though Birmingham has a professional football team. So
Same in San Antonio. We never know about the Llamas.
Their whole thing is the television product. They have gone all in. I mean, television networks don't care about us as fans. They care about us if we're watching the game.
Yeah.
That's who they care more about. While you have the balance of the schools that are like, I got to put butts in seats and I got to give them the experience and give them a reason to come. Can we work together? And then the TV networks go, have you not seen the check that we write to you? But the one thing about the Big Ten, the smart thing that they have an advantage is they can spread it through 3 different networks so that they can go 3 different windows where you go, wow, that's Big Ten football. And they've got banger after banger after banger.
Well, your case in point is the Friday games, right? Like how many teams, and especially teams that are in states where high school football is a really big deal. Like how many teams really want to play a game on Friday? How many teams really want to take that short week? And like, I understand you can play it off as, well, you're going to be the national game or whatever. And there's going to be more people who are going to watch you. Yeah. But there's also there's also primetime television on Friday. It's not like when one football game's going on Friday, everybody's just going to view that. Like there is an increase in viewership, but not to the point where it's like, oh my God, like you have,
I think we need to get over so many
people are there.
We need to get
like,
over the adage of,
you're the only game on TV.
We need to go over the adage of, high school football, it's a big deal. Come on. Attendance at high school football games is down. All right. And you know what? You can go to a high school football game and watch on your phone the game that you're missing. So we need to stop that line. But here's where the Friday thing got off the rails. Is you have teams in the Big Ten that said, no, we're never playing a home game on Friday. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Nebraska tried to say that. And the league said, you know what? Be better on the field for your punishment. You're getting a Friday night game. And you're not only going to have to do it once, you're going to have to do it twice. And Nebraska is going to play another Friday game, but I think it's before like 2032. But if I'm a lower level school, if I'm Northwestern, if I'm Rutgers, if I'm Maryland, I'm like MAC schools playing on Tuesday. I love the Friday night game.
TV.
You know what? Because you have a separate window, a standalone window that you're not getting on Saturday because you get lost in the shuffle on a Saturday. I'm more likely to pay attention to a Rutgers Northwestern game on a Friday night in Piscataway than I am to pay attention at an 11 a.m. game on BTN on the following day.
But so I agree with that. And I guess when you put it that way, you can say, well, it's good for the league with the lower teams getting more attention, right? At the same time, we are at the point where the league is mainly represented by those at the top, right? Like how Ohio State does and how Oregon does and how Penn State does and the college football playoff and on the national landscape means so much to the league, because if they do well, then we say, hey, the Big Ten is great. And I think that in a way, those Friday games don't necessarily cater to them and don't necessarily give them maybe not that
Fridays
it's a disadvantage.
aren't Fridays your tease? Like it's your appetizer, because you're not going to put Oregon, Penn State's not going to play on a Friday night. You're not going to, your best games are going to be at 11 a.m.
But those
at 2:30 and 6:30.
But we're talking, this conversation is about the networks care about the networks, and the networks care about the money, and the networks care about the attention, and they don't necessarily care, right, about what the teams do or what the teams think or anything like that. We're going to make sure that we do what puts money in our pocketbooks. And it would be for the advantage of the Big Ten to have these big games, right, played by these top teams, played on Saturday, right?
Yep.
But the networks go, well, we don't care. You're going to get more attention on Friday, so we're going to put you on a Friday. And that's just the example.
I think you'd be cutting off. You would. I don't ever see that they'll say Ohio State, Penn State, you're going to play on a Friday night. I think we have inventory. It's a nice little appetizer, but we know that our bread is buttered at 11 a.m. for Ohio State, Penn State on a Saturday instead of 7 o'clock on a Friday night. But we're still going to give you football.
I agree with that.
We're still going to give you football.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
All right. Speaking of football, speaking of the Kansas Speedway, Matt Rule was there yesterday. Matt Rule is everywhere. I'd like to follow Matt Rule. Will Matt Rule, like Belichick and Hudson, have a reality show someday?
I hope Matt Rule does come in second place like Hudson.
Hour 2 coming up next. All right, hour number 2, Gary and Matt with Jimmy. You can always join the show via the Prairie Flower Casino hotline, 402-951-1620. I'm going to tell you a little bit later how you can get qualified to win some cool stuff from 1620 The Zone. We'll do that. Evan Bland coming up at about 8:30. Tomorrow is Election Day in this city. So we have NBC on in the studio and the WWT morning show, their last break filled with Stothard against Ewing. Has this gotten nasty?
I
like we are down in the mud on both campaigns, slinging with a day to go before Election Day. And they showed people were lined up for a mayoral election in this town. Could we have a nice turnout?
Was it already lined up to vote?
Yeah, they showed people in line at the Douglas County Elections Commission office. I mean, I know my mailbox will tell you that this is a heated race. My robocalls will tell you that this apparently is a heated race.
Are they telling you that this is the biggest election of our lifetime, of your lifetime, of somebody's lifetime?
They are not saying that.
I feel like every election now is the biggest election of our lifetime. Could be for like the Wisconsin. Whatever happened to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, by the way? Because talk about a race that was nasty.
The liberal candidate won.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was the one that Elon Musk went to Wisconsin.
Okay.
Put on the cheesehead. I think that was the race, and I believe that the non-Republican candidate won.
I was just watching Northwestern playing Rutgers in basketball, and for 3 hours, all I saw on the Big Ten Network was the Supreme Court for Wisconsin is having this incredible race that is going to determine the state's future. And I'm like, I'm in Nebraska, man. I don't give a damn about what goes on in Wisconsin.
You'll learn. You watch enough Royals baseball, you will learn about all the Kansas and Missouri politics, because it seems like every break during election season there has something to do with one of the candidates. And I'm like, you know what? I can't vote today in Salina, so I'm just going to let this one slide.
You know, I know how much baseball you've watched. If you can, just rattle off like 15 different law firms, because that's always,
Jungle Law.
Yeah, Verdoliak.
Florida's
got this.
Florida's the big one is Morgan and Morgan. So John Morgan, who is based out of Orlando, is like the Barry Law of the state of Florida.
Gotcha.
He has bought up so much inventory, does a really, really good job. Is out in the community. Everybody knows him. You know how everybody knows John.
Sure.
Everybody knows John Morgan in Florida, and he is every single place. But I wonder, do we think there's going to be an upset in the mayoral election?
I don't know. I haven't been following. I don't follow.
Welcome to Omaha.
I don't follow politics.
That's okay,
man.
You're young.
I'm not a
We don't expect you to vote.
I'm not a politics.
You're not even a Nebraskan.
No, not yet. I have to do that this week. Actually, I got mail. So
okay,
I've been collecting my mail, so I'm getting ready to make sure that I can go in and I can get my real ID, so I can take a flight to home pretty soon. I don't pay attention to politics, even when I'll tell you this right now, and this might be embarrassing to some people, but I don't care.
Why is that embarrassing?
Tell you who my hometown mayor was. I could not tell you who they were when I lived there 6 months ago. I couldn't tell you one mayor in the 20 years that I was in Illinois. I couldn't tell you one Skokie mayor. Couldn't. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't pay attention.
I don't think I remember the Urbandale mayors.
I never even met the Skokie mayor. I never even met anybody who was like, yeah, I'm my cousin is the mayor, or my uncle is the mayor, or my dad is the mayor. I never met any of those people. So I don't know. I've never really paid attention to politics. But, good luck to the candidates, and I'm rooting for the winner.
Wow.
Go sports.
Go sports. That's what I did. I just did the political version of Go
Iowa
Sports.
JD says, for the love of God, don't vote for the person that wants those red light ticket cameras. I don't have the budget after my wife drives in Omaha daily for work. Whoa, he just threw his wife.
What a stray.
Under the bus. Well, listen here, Iowa JD. You
Yeah.
guys don't even live in Omaha. You can't vote in our election. So, but yes, I'd be vehemently opposed to the red light.
I'd be
cameras.
screwed. I'd be screwed.
I'd have a tough about 6:02 every morning here at 52nd and Dodge.
I would have a tough time at the light right next to 480, right next to the because no one's there. No one's there. No one's coming through.
Yeah, I think that should be, as long as you're not causing any issues.
listening.
Yeah. I think you should be able, as long as you pause, you stop.
Yes.
There's no one around. You're not going to cause anybody harm, and you know that the light's not going to change. Even with my trick of the double click with the hives, the high beams to get the light sensors. I think you should be able to move on appropriately.
If I stop at that light and I can see somebody coming from a quarter mile away, if I can see that nobody is coming, it should be legal for me to just continue driving and get to work. I absolutely agree.
KG writes in. KG called in on Friday about his son at Papio South playing in the Rugby State Championships. He informs us that in the Equitable Bank inbox that they went 3-0 with 2 come-from-behind wins, and they won 43-0 in the final. Another state title to Papio South, who is gearing up for a big state track and field run and, of course, baseball. They're really, really good in baseball. This is a good week because, let's see, state track and field is next week. State baseball and state soccer are this week, 2 of the better events the NSA puts on. Ironically, both are here in Omaha. Morrison Stadium, which is a great host for state soccer, and then baseball, which I tell this to a lot of my friends that coach high school baseball in this area. They saved their sport and grew their sport by forcing it out of Lincoln. And thank you to Marty Cordero, the Stormchasers, and Ethan Anderson of Omaha Athletics, that they got together and they offered up Tal Anderson Field in Warner Park for high school baseball.
That's awesome.
Because the ridiculousness that this was a split championship, that one year A would be in Lincoln, B would be in Omaha, and then we added a Class C, and all 3 now are here in Omaha. And you once hosted it at a place that did not want to host it, and now you have 2 entities that love the high school baseball tournament.
Yeah.
They changed the format, so it's a 1-game winner-take-all. They could put it on statewide TV. The crowds have been great. They have turned this sport around because it's already been good. I mean, for long, long time, high school baseball in this state. But now more people pay attention, and the championships are on a whole nother level. They did the same thing with softball. Now, the championships are going to leave Tal Anderson and go to Bolin Stadium in Lincoln. But the coaches got together and they said, for the betterment of the sport, how do we make it appealing for statewide TV and a better experience for our athletes? And both sports have done that. So I'm looking forward to baseball, which gets underway on Friday.
No, I mean, it makes sense. Why not put the skate tournament in the biggest city in your state at really good facilities? I mean, it just works. It just works.
Matt Rule. So we were talking about the Kansas Speedway.
He is everywhere.
He is everywhere. Now, he was taking pictures with Kyle Larson in the winner's circle.
Kyle Larson, small guy. Real small.
Aren't most of the NASCAR drivers kind of itty-bitty dudes?
I don't know. Kyle Busch is a pretty big
Not
guy.
everybody looks like Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
Has a little boiler.
They don't look like, NASCAR, and not to get on the guys who, drive NASCARs now, but you look at the old videos of like those NASCAR drivers. They were grown men. They were true Southern men.
They drank, they smoked, and then they hopped in a car and drove left all day long.
Bush Light in the right hand, chaw
Sounds like
in the
sports
left
journalists
lip.
back in the day.
And you know what?
I'm driving.
I'm not letting go of this gas until I see God or the checkered flag. They went and they raced. And nowadays, like everything, the nerds and math and analytics have taken over. And we're like, well, we need a guy who's 5'8" who weighs 172 pounds. So the downwind force of our windshield makes sure that we're getting the RPMs over to 4,000. And so we can push it to the limit when we're going into turn 4. That's where we're at now. That's where all sports are at now. We're going to make sure that we're drafting a guy whose launch angle is 32.3 degrees. And that way, when he's hitting into the wind in Nationals Park, he can get it out.
Just win.
That's where we're at.
Just draft.
So no Kevin Garnett driving in Formula One or IndyCar?
No. Back in the 2000s, in all sports, athletes were athletes. Okay. They were athletes.
Hot take
now
after
we're
another.
like spending $300,000 on our body every year to make sure we're eating the right kale and potatoes so we can, play a couple extra games in a season.
I know Rule likes NASCAR and probably
A little bit
took to a whole nother level when he was living in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have a connection to Hendrick Motorsports? Because they had so Brett Veach was
I would
there.
have no clue.
He was in the winner's circle like after the TV broadcast had gone off the air. Rice, the wide receiver of the Chiefs, was there. I didn't know if Rule has like a connection to
I don't know.
Motorsports.
I have no clue. It seems like Matt Rule just seems like a guy who just likes events. He just goes to events. He just likes going out. He likes being out and about. He likes having his
He likes
face in
people. He's a
places.
fun guy.
He likes people. Hey, look, I know a lot of people are going to be like, he better win on Saturday. He better, he better show up on the field, and they better, have 8 or 9 wins if he's showing up to all these places. And part of me
Did they really say that?
On Twitter, there is a lot of
Can't he just be a normal citizen
that's what I think.
who enjoys events and goes out? And you know what? I'd rather have the guy that has the most powerful job in the state of Nebraska, somebody who likes being out in the public, than somebody that hides.
There was one tweet that I saw.
Because I think it would be easy for him to hide. I mean, you've won 13
really
football games in 2 years, even with the optimism of this year, to say like, nah, you know what? I'm good. I like that he's a normal citizen who just happens to be the head football coach at Nebraska. But people say that.
There was a tweet I saw yesterday.
Does he get the Dylan treatment?
There was a tweet I saw yesterday that said, yeah, we need to win this year or we are going to be roasted so bad. Dude is everywhere and is goofy. But man, I love him. Is what
he enjoys being the head football coach at Nebraska. He's just a people person. That's why does that have to be,
I don't know,
perceived as a negative?
Yeah, who are they playing on May 11th?
I mean, I hope that they have another 7-5 season. He's still out there.
Yeah.
I would much rather
he's Matt Rule, a citizen. You just have him be a football coach in Nebraska.
I know.
I mean, he likes NASCAR. He got an opportunity, maybe with a sponsor, to go down there. I don't know.
People want him to watch tape on May 11th.
It's like him and Kyle Larson were, chopping it up. It was a good photo op, but it's also, every time you see him, it's, hey, there's the football coach at Nebraska. I think people now associate him more with Nebraska than any other place, correct?
I think so, without a doubt. And I think we're at the point where a lot of people, like when you see Matt Rule, you now know, hey, he's the coach at Nebraska. He's the Nebraska head football coach, which I know that sounds weird to say for us, but like on places that don't really pay attention that much to college football, that there was a point where it's like, oh, do you know that Matt Rule now is like Nebraska football's like head coach? Like that's no longer the case.
Was Drinkwitz, Kleiman, or Leipold at the Kansas Speedway? Okay.
No. Matt Rule was. Here's the thing. I know that I read that tweet, and there are probably people who think the same way about him being out there and about, and that has to turn to wins or whatever. Every time Matt Rule
now that person tweet exactly the same about Dylan being out?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no clue. But I will say this.
We got bigger things to worry about.
Every time Matt Rule's out and about, he's at least he's representing Nebraska well. Like he's not getting into trouble or saying bad quotes or doing things that are
downtown
controversial.
Omaha on a Saturday night throwing fists in a bar.
No. He's actually, but I'm being serious. Like he's actually representing.
Would that help his credibility?
The school. If he got into a fight, probably. I think there'd probably be more people who think he can coach on Saturdays if he got into a bare knuckle brawl. They'd be like, that's the attitude we need.
Sounds like Drinkwitz's music
on the field. We don't need this niceness. Seriously, that's how people look at it. But I mean, he's everywhere, and you want to.
He has a quarterback. Him and his quarterback, they find their way in front of the camera. I think it's genuine though with Rule.
Yeah, I want Mike. Well, I mean. Genuine, yeah, genuine. I think but he knows.
Was he getting paid to go to the Kansas Speedway yesterday?
I have no clue.
I think he is. I've heard him speak before.
So,
I think he is a NASCAR.
There
fan.
was a tweet from a Carolina Panthers account that said that he had mentioned when he was the coach there that he enjoyed
Good for him.
NASCAR races.
Good for him. He's a football coach in Nebraska. He has an opportunity, and
I want him to be.
So people talk about him. So let's say that 27 tight end prospect sees on Twitter that maybe his future head coach was in victory lane with Kyle Larson. I don't know if that means you say I'm in, but you're always recruiting. You are always recruiting. It doesn't matter if you are at Bucks in Omaha or outside of Omaha, or you're at the Kansas Speedway, or you're on McAfee's show. You're always recruiting.
You want your coach to be nationally recognized.
Well, you want your coach to be out there, even if
exactly.
it's in the state of Nebraska.
You want
a lot of coaches hide.
You want you want people, when they look at Matt Rule, when they meet Matt Rule, they already have an idea of who this guy is, and what he's about. And I think that him going to these events and doing these things and talking to the national media or whatever shows people, hey, this is kind of part of who I am. And so when you do get into the door in recruiting, there already is some sort of familiarity because you've seen him out in so many different places and you've seen him talk about his program, the things that are going on in college sports. There definitely are going to be people, though,
Oh, I know.
who-
I get. I absolutely get that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there shouldn't be, but come on. I would rather take somebody that likes being the head football coach at Nebraska and likes dealing with people and being out with people, even when their record is not, they're not winning championships, than the person that, winning or losing, you hardly ever see them out and they go into seclusion and they don't go to events and they don't be one of us. That's what we want. We want our coach.
He's the same guy every day.
Yeah, we're attracted to our coaches that are one of us. Like we see him
Sure.
at the grocery store.
I agree.
We see him at a bar. We see him at the aisles having pizza by himself.
Delicious.
I mean, that's that makes it like, oh, just like us. That's our guy. So when you are having
Sure.
downtimes,
Yeah.
when things are going against you, you might get a little tinge of the benefit of the doubt because you know what, man, that guy, I saw that guy in Havelock and we had a beer
Sure.
and he was really, really nice and he took a selfie with me and he pointed at my stomach. You know what? So what if they lost to UCLA? But you better damn well win at USC the following week.
Well, you do get the benefit of the doubt in the terms of he's trying, man, he's trying, he's out there, he's doing this, he's doing that, whatever. But I just think that being a coach in college football is really tough, right? I mean, it is a grind nowadays, especially if you're in the SEC and the Big Ten. And I know this is going to maybe sound a little too sentimental, but I like it when my head coach is smiling and my head coach is out there and my head coach looks like he's happy and like he enjoys working for the school. It doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be, right? But like at least that there's the idea of, hey, my head coach looks like he loves to work at where he works at, right? And that's a good reflection on the athletic department. So the fact that Matt Rule is out there smiling and having a good time and taking pictures with people, I do like it because it makes it seem like, and it does seem like, that he likes being the coach at Nebraska. And I like people who like being at Nebraska because I'm someone who likes to be at Nebraska, right? And that's it folds it all back to the relatability and connecting with your coach. I'd much rather have my coach be trying to connect with people and being out in the national media as opposed to being a hermit, curled up in their office, just trying to,
Ted bought Tim Miles some time. Tim Miles loved being the basketball coach at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes too much. There was too much Tim. But because of his personality, even when things before his last year were going south, people are like, okay, I might give Tim the benefit of the doubt because I see Tim after games.
Yeah.
I see Tim out. I see Tim outside of his castle at Firethorn. It does go a long way.
It does.
Because you can relate to, even though their coaches are on a whole different level, you can at least relate to them as a citizen. You're right. They like being the head coach. I think Scott got off to the wrong start when, one of the first things he did, if he should have hired a personal PR firm for his time at Nebraska. His first time where away from the podium in his opening news conference, when he told the media that his family was off limits, but the way that he said it immediately put people on edge. And, there were already former teammates that were already like, this isn't going to work.
Sure.
So,
well, you read, like I've seen the video, but then just reading that quote that he tells the reporter that his family is off limits, like he
didn't tell one reporter. He told a group of us.
Like
in a scrum.
I get uncomfortable just reading it, not just being. I can't imagine like being in front of him with a microphone, having him say that to me as a reporter.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff that's been written and then said. The ESPN article with Scott, Sam wrote about it this morning. Scott got off to a rough start here, not wanting fully to take the job. And then being here, and he became defensive and, used past moments here of people that wronged him, that he was going to right them. It was just the whole. The Steelers can't quit Aaron Rodgers. I've quit Scott Frost. I think we need to quit Scott Frost and talk about the guy that we've just been talking about.
He's where he wants to be.
The head coach. Yes,
and the guy here is where he wants to be.
He's happier there. Yeah. Scott Frost is happier in Orlando. Matt Rule is happier than he was in Charlotte. Well, hey, good luck to both of them. You know what? But I don't have enough time in the day now that I got to watch the rehearsal on HBO, which I'm being told to watch, to worry about somebody that doesn't work here or doesn't play here. I got to worry more about the guy that is here that affects our mood on a day-to-day basis because he's now the guy in the power chair.
Scott Frost came in and kind of stiff-armed people and created that space, right, for whatever reason. Matt Rule has come here to Nebraska in the last 2 years, and he's given a proverbial hug to the university and to the fan base. And I'd much rather be hugged than be stiff-armed if we're just, comparing the two.
Well, I think he was prepped. I think he was prepped by the guy that said you're in a gots-to-go situation and then you're in a you need to come to Nebraska situation. I think they prepped Rule. I think Trev prepped Rule on the role, the attention, and just being a normal, good person.
Without a doubt.
All right. Speaking of Trev, well, I got to read a tweet from Todd because it was not a very good weekend for the former Nebraska athletic director.
No.
Who are we more likely to quit within the next 6 months?
Oh, great question.
Trev Alberts or Scott Frost?
Trev. I would say Trev.
Yeah, I'd say Trev.
So Scott's going to linger for a while?
Because if they start winning at UCF, we'll go back to talking about it, and we'll go back to having those convos.
You will. I won't.
I'll roll my eyes. And
You will.
Most of the people.
You will.
A lot of people.
You will. I won't. It's a whole different scenario.
You got to move forward, not
setup.
backwards.
Scott Frost is more built to be the head football coach at Central Florida than he was at Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And it's okay.
That's yeah. And it you know what? And it's okay. It's okay to say, hey, you might have better success somewhere else. That's fine. Just say it. Not everybody is built for the Nebraska job. Okay? You're going to go through a lot of lows. You might have to mix in some highs.
Yeah.
It's just what happens.
I agree.
All right, we'll do that. We come back a little bit later. Evan Bland will stop by. We'll talk some college baseball. Creighton and Nebraska both won 2 of 3. Omaha qualified for the Summer League tournament, so they have that in the next 2 weeks. Plus, Omaha and Nebraska softball. Their season continues this week. But why is the Jordy Ball, Shohei Ohtani experience relegated to ESPN Plus for their opener? That and much more as we roll on till 10 on a Monday of Gary and Matt with Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. Moose Roofing, the place to go if you need roofing, siding, or gutter work on your home. Now, your most valuable asset is your home. And you know what? The MVPs of roofing in Omaha, Pat Moose and his group at Moose Roofing, they are here for you to help you navigate the whole setup, whether it be navigating the severe weather, the high winds and hail that take a beating on your property. Having a local roofing contractor is essential because Moose Roofing is here before the storm, during the storm, and after the storm. And what they do, it's a fantastic experience that I've seen firsthand. Their commitment to professionalism and education. They will, once you schedule a consultation, they'll come out and they will sit down with you. They don't come out and immediately get out of the trucks and get on the roof. They sit down with you to figure out your needs, what is wrong before they go to work. And they will educate you on the process of their system, which helps you save money and less hassle. So you have a peace of mind. That's their number one priority. They'll also work with your insurance company because the claims processes have gotten more and more difficult as we go along. Moose Roofing, they go the extra mile for the customer. Plus, when they're done with the job, you would never know that they were there because they clean up everything. It's in and out. Siding, roofing, gutters. Moose Roofing, they are specialists. Find out today if you need one of those 3 taken care of, how Moose Roofing can help you. Let Pat Moose and the entire crew be your friend. For more information, log on to the website, mooseroofing.com. All right, good luck. I said earlier the state soccer doesn't begin until tomorrow. It actually begins today. Class A girls quarterfinals at Morrison Stadium. The weather's going to be fantastic. I'll be honest, I haven't paid a ton of attention to soccer other than some of the newer schools that qualified. I'll just sit and wait until next Tuesday if we get Prep and South in the boys Class A final.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun. I watched my first soccer game from beginning to end in like a couple of years. On what was it? It was yesterday.
Saturday morning Premier League?
It was Sunday. It was El Clasico. It was Real Madrid taking on Barcelona. It was actually a very, very entertaining game.
Now, most people would ask you, did you watch it because McSportsbook was involved?
No. I first off, I'm a responsible gambler. Gamble
You read the
responsibly.
pamphlet.
Sorry. And I don't bet on sports I really don't know too much about. Okay. Like I don't really know a lot about soccer, and I have a budget, so I'm not just gonna be like, hey, here's $15 on Real Madrid. I'm not going to do that. I just wanted something to watch, and I just turned it on. I go, these are two pretty good teams. Then they started scoring goals, and I go, wow, this is like the most exciting sport ever. And then they didn't score a goal for like the next 50 minutes. And I was like, here it is. Like, this is why we have the downbeat. Like, I don't hate soccer, but I don't love soccer. I'm just kind of like, soccer is soccer. It's there. I'll watch it, but I'm not like freaking out about it. But I'm not afraid to like make fun of people who like love soccer. Like there's a good contrast where I see both sides.
So you do make fun of people that love soccer?
You be nice to my friend John Schreiber. He's a good man.
He's a good soccer
Great
town
man.
now.
I just think it's just easy to, sometimes they get really, really like when you make a joke about soccer, people get really offended by it because they feel like they have to defend the sport, because there are too many people who are like, soccer's awful. Soccer's terrible, even though they haven't like given it a chance. So because they get really offended, it's just easy for me to keep making more jokes and for them to keep like getting annoyed by it, which I think is funny. But at the same time, I very much respect the sport.
I'm a red, white, and blue soccer fan. So when the U.S. is involved, I'll get jacked up.
Yeah, be fun next year.
I just don't know enough about the sport, but I appreciate people's passion. I have found that soccer fans are more welcoming to people that don't know the sport but aren't going to crack on you.
Yes.
Like if you want to ask questions about how the Premier League works, regulation, that kind of stuff,
They
or
appreciate
relegation, I should say. They're like open. Hey, so tell me, if I go and sit with the Parliament in a Union Omaha game, like what am I going to experience instead of
George
like,
Clinton?
You know what? Let me see your credentials. Like what do you know about soccer? They're like, hey, this is what it is. And so I found like the soccer community, unlike some other sports communities that are kind of shut off and they're like, no. Hey, stop. You don't know what our sport's about? You're not welcome.
Well, there's a community. Like period, end of story. There's an actual soccer community. Like
it's a robust community in this town.
Yeah, there are some sports where I don't think they necessarily have those like strong communities. They just happen to have a lot of fans. Like there's a difference between being kind of like interwoven as one to like enjoy a sport, and a difference of just, oh, I like a sport and you like a sport and all these people like a sport. Like I think soccer, man, it's been growing. It still is growing. Having the World Cup here in America is going to be absolutely awesome for the sport. It's just a damn shame that we've been told for like, I feel like the last 6, 7, 8 years that we're in the golden age of U.S. soccer. We're in the golden age of U.S. soccer. We have all these guys who are going overseas. We have people in Italy and Spain and England, and yet they just haven't been able to put it together and have like a really, really good team that could be competitive in like world tournaments. Like that's what we're missing. We're missing a USA soccer run that people can all come together and be like, man, this is awesome.
Wonder if anybody locally went up and watched the Inter Miami and the Loons this weekend, because Messi was up in Minneapolis. When he's been to Kansas City, well, when he was in Kansas City, there was 32 degrees, but yet they had 17K at Sporting KC. He was up in Minnesota the other night. If you have never seen it, I mean, it's an experience. I mean, he's one of the best of all time, if not the. But the stuff they do for him.
Oh yeah.
Like when the bus pulls up to a visiting pitch, he gets taken to the loading dock and escorted in before the rest of the team and anybody waiting.
He's like the Taylor Swift of sports right now. Like every event of his is a massive event that people are willing to pay hundreds, even thousands to go to.
Peter says we could have in boys, because this is a rivalry, you could have Prep and Westside. Prep is the number 1 seed. They've been a juggernaut in boys soccer. They're 16-1. So we could have Prep Westside on Friday night. Now that would be entertaining because Prep and Westside people hate each other. And I'm all for it. Back to Matt Rule showing up at the Kansas Speedway yesterday to be with his buddy Kyle Larson.
All of our buddy Kyle Larson, by the way. Thanks for the $40, Kyle.
This comes now. This is into the Equitable Bank inbox where they take banking personally. Must tell you that this email comes from Ohio State fan.
Okay.
And this involves a fellow Big Ten school that did something this weekend. Oh, by the way, got a 5-star defensive lineman in the class of 26. Rule at NASCAR while Dan Lanning making complete cringe commitment videos.
I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. A lot of people were making fun of him. If that's what he's got to do to lock up prospects, you know what, man? Go ahead and jump into the pool. Right? The love handles are love handling for Dan Lanning. He is like the ultimate skinny fat. Like him with a shirt on, he looks like he's in great shape and that he works out consistently and then he takes it off. You're like, oof, Dan. Been having I don't know, what do they have in Oregon, Jimmy? That would be fattening.
Weed and beer.
I don't think
he's having that. I think he's just getting older. It's okay.
What would you rather do? What would you rather have? Matt Rule jumping into a pool or Matt Rule taking a picture with the winner of the Kansas City 200?
I would love if Matt Rule was taking a picture with a 5-star defensive lineman and his stomach looked like they did the whole thing from the Goonies. I would take that.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's okay.
It's only cringy if it's not your guy that's getting him. So what if he jumped into a pool with the recruit and they popped up and they flashed the O? He got a 5-star defensive lineman. I think what is cringy is Brian Kelly grinding against a recruit.
Exactly.
I'll take my head coach jumping into a pool to announce the commitment of a big-time player compared to my football coach just grinding on a player like Brian Kelly was. Now, that's cringeworthy, and I believe that's illegal in 46 states.
You don't
not Louisiana.
You don't like Brian Kelly's fake Southern accent? You don't feel more connected to him?
You know what, my world would explode if I had to spend a day with Brian Kelly and James Franklin in a car driving across the country.
Put Chip Kelly in there too. That would be
I'd rather be in a car with Huggins after a night out.
Well, that would be fun.
Yes, it would.
That'd be a good time.
Even if Bob is driving.
Again, if it's only cringy if it's not you.
Well, do you know, this is a great example.
It's like drama. It's great if it doesn't involve you.
Dan Lanning is unique. All right. When you're at Oregon, you can't be Tyrone Willingham and just laissez-faire. You're at Oregon.
Sure.
Oregon has to have flash and dash. So the head coach has to be a flasher and a dancer. And that's what Dan Lanning is. So if he wants to jump into a pool, now I would like to know the backstory of, okay, he told him that he was coming to Oregon, and did they come up with the idea or how that all worked?
Sure. Or was it, hey, I'll commit if you jump in the pool?
Because the first time I stopped the video because I'm like, okay, I don't want to see an 18-year-old kid jumping in a pool.
Sure.
But then I saw Lanning does it right after. I'm like, okay, now I got to watch.
Well,
and he doesn't look like George Welsh, so it's not the worst thing.
Oregon and USC and Ohio State are just killing it in recruiting.
We've already seen this before, by the way, with Eli Drinkowitz, where when Williams Nwaneri committed and then he hugged a guy and then jumped off and both his feet were off the ground, and then Nwaneri ended up transferring the next year. That's embarrassing. So
I mean, hey,
that guy ends up
Nebraska when Malachi Coleman committed.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember that video?
Sure.
They were sitting in the lounge and the reaction there. Hey, whatever it takes to get your guy. And you know what? Somebody's going to go, oh, okay, I'm going to commit to Oregon, but now we got to top that. What's the next thing we're going to do? Now that kid will always
drop off a cliff.
That kid, until he becomes like an NFL dude,
he'll be
he'll be always known as the Dan Lanning cringy buddy guy, because that's how you identify him. So Richard Wesley is his name.
Tough.
He makes a play on the field, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's the guy that was cringeworthy with landing in the pool."
Well, what if he gets his first sack and then he does like a cannonball onto the field?
Now that would be a baller move.
Like
that would be the ultimate baller
Like
move.
he just goes straight up into the air, just lands on his butt on the grass, just being like, yeah, that's my thing. I'm the pool guy.
Todd tweets at the show. This involves our good friend Trev Alberts. Who did not have a good weekend this weekend. It may be the worst weekend in the history of Texas A&M baseball. So Texas A&M got swept by Missouri. Missouri was 0-24 before they went to College Station.
They were before the series began. Texas A&M was a projected 3 seed for the NCAA tournament.
Well, before the year began, they were a projected national champion. Remember they were on the cover of Baseball America? The Curse of Baseball America? So in a sport where it is one of the bigger sports at Texas A&M, maybe bigger than men's basketball at Texas A&M. Football is the king.
Yeah.
Their softball program is the number 1 overall seed. I think baseball is either the second or third biggest sport.
Yeah, Aggie baseball
at the
is a
Colt.
big deal.
I mean, you see the turnouts that they get for the games and how loud it gets.
Shout out
over
Bluebell.
there. I mean, they obviously care a whole lot about it. And I think their basketball program, I've never really assigned basketball with Texas A&M. I've never been like, oh yeah, like that's a basketball school. So yeah, I would say so. I would say that I think if you made that statement to someone who's a Texas A&M fan, they'd have a hard time disagreeing with you. And if they did disagree with you, you probably could make an argument to sway them.
And they went through Schlossnagle saying yes to Texas before the season was over. That how uncomfortable it was here in Omaha last year. And instead of opening up the job, where you would get some national attention, like some big name bangers of coaches, you promoted an assistant who it has been an utter failure this year. I wonder, because they may have to move on from 1 year as the head baseball coach at Texas A&M.
SEC, you can't fall.
No. Look, hey, the team that won the national championship a couple of years ago, Mississippi State fired their head coach in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
By the way, Mississippi State now has had a couple of good weekends. The SEC baseball I'm in love with. Okay,
it looks fun.
You all might hate the SEC Invitational for the College World Series, but it is fun. You watch it, it's fun. You look at Vandy in Tennessee this weekend in Knoxville. That's fun. Vandy won 2 of 3. They were chippy the whole weekend. You look at LSU and Arkansas are playing at 2 a.m, getting us ready for the College World Series. I love SEC baseball, but in a place that loves their baseball and needs their baseball to be good, like, do you allow the athletic director to make another hire for an important sport?
I mean,
which he doesn't have any. Let's see, he hired Evan Porter, who is now 9 years as the head coach. He never hired a baseball coach at Omaha or at Nebraska. He makes a big hire. I don't know. Do you let Trev make the second hire of baseball? Because if they don't make the NCAA tournament, I don't think you can run it back with a guy who maybe probably shouldn't have been in that role.
Well, it's a team, or it's an SEC baseball team where you said, it matters a lot over there. There absolutely would have been big hitters who wanted the Texas A&M job. This wasn't one of those things where they had to promote from within. They could have gone out and gotten a better coach. But you look at now at the Power 5 level, right? Like Trev Alberts and the hires that he's had. I really do think that Matt Rule and his success is going to matter for Trev Alberts when we end up looking at how Trev has done as an athletic director, because he hasn't made too many hires at the P5 level since he's been the athletic director at Nebraska and now the athletic director at Texas A&M. And then let's look at these processes, right? You go ahead, you promote from within of the baseball team, you have an incredibly disappointing season. Considering the fact that it wasn't a massive name. And so you're getting to the point with where it's like you can start questioning, hey, is this guy, is he at the Power 5 level? How good is he? How good is he at hiring coaches? How good is he at going through that process? And so if Matt Rule ends up failing, right, and this does not work out, it's going to once again reflect poorly on Trev Alberts, because it'll be another big hire for a program that means a lot to a fan base that it ends up not working out.
It'll be interesting to see what happens at Texas A&M. I mean, they got swept by Mizzou. They got swept by
They were
Missouri.
0-24.
Yeah.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Also, I'm with the Iowa fans this morning when it comes to baseball. So Iowa and Oregon State played over in Des Moines.
I
They
saw
ended up
that.
in a tie yesterday because of travel constrictions. In Oregon State, the Beavers had to leave the ballpark, and people were upset. I'm with you. I did not pay to watch a tie.
No.
I said this on Friday because they moved up the Michigan-Nebraska game 30 minutes. Why don't they just wait before they set a set time for a getaway day until you have confirmation of the flights home? Because if I paid to go, and I imagine the tickets weren't cheap.
Sure.
I was playing in Des Moines at Principal Park, and I don't think they were exorbitant. But if I paid, and it has kind of significance for both Oregon State and Iowa in terms of RPI.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If I was a fan and I paid, and all of a sudden, in the 10th inning, was it 10th or 11th? The 10th inning, teams start walking off the field, and it's 6-6, and you're like, excuse me? This is so...
It's so
Midwest. It's Midwest college baseball. Don't do the Sunday start times until somebody shows you a ticket of when they have to leave your local airport. Because seriously, if I paid for a ticket, I just watched a tie. People just left the field.
Who the hell is happy about that? I was not happy about that. They want to beat Oregon State. Oregon State's not happy about that. It doesn't help their RPI that they ended up tying Iowa. It helps nobody.
I mean, what would have now the game yesterday in Lincoln moved pretty quick, and I don't know what Michigan's departure time out of Epley was, but I think it was like 6 p.m. So you figure, they got to be out of Lincoln by 4 at the latest, 3:30 at the latest, because you got to check in a large group. What if that game would have been that? Now that would have been significant because a conference game. What if that would have been a tie?
What
if Nebraska comes back and scores 2 in the 9th, so it's 3-3? And the 11th, they're like, yep, curfew's up, gotta go.
Well,
you'd be Haymarket Park, they would be picking up chairs and throwing them on the field.
Well, I mean, also too for Iowa, thank God it wasn't a conference game, right? Because it's like that would actually matter. That would actually Nebraska is still. I mean, it seems like they're going to be okay, but heading into the weekend, right? They're fighting for their lives to be in the Big Ten tournament.
Tied for 9th right now.
Yeah, but heading into it before they won the first 2 games of the season. But if you have an ability to sweep that series and then it ends up being like, no, we got to go home. We got to make sure we hit our flight. We got finals this week, guys. I mean, that would be, it's not, I wonder, you said it on Friday, the whole not serious conference, right? That's just like serious conference because it doesn't do that. It's just what it is.
I wonder what Oregon's flight time is. I wonder if Oregon and Iowa play this weekend. If you don't know, Iowa's in first place in the Big Ten by a game over UCLA.
Yeah.
I think they're 2 games up over Oregon, which is bizarro world. Does Oregon so all the Big Ten's conference baseball this weekend is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday because conference tournaments are beginning on Tuesday. I wonder if Oregon goes to Iowa City and then they come straight to Omaha, because what happens if they have a flight back to Portland?
Yeah.
And Saturday, they have to have, you play with a curfew, and that game ends in a tie because it counts as half a win and half a loss in terms of RPI. But I wonder if Oregon just comes to Omaha.
Why would you go back? I would just stay.
Because you got Phil Knight money.
Yeah, but you get used to the time. The time zone's so tough. Going from Pacific to Central, it's such a difficult thing to deal with. Right? You got to make sure that
Mick Cronin is not coaching Oregon baseball.
I'm glad someone got the reference. But I mean, I don't. Also, too, money, from a money perspective, I know, but you got to think about that with baseball, right? It is kind of expensive to fly all the way from Oregon to Iowa, fly back to Oregon, then Oregon, fly into Omaha. Just go.
Yeah, I can imagine they're gonna just bus over on Saturday night to Omaha.
I would think so. I think they would want to do that. Take in the city. It's a beautiful city. There's 1 million people here now.
Oh, and you can feel the buildup to the Big Ten baseball tournament. You see all the billboards around town?
I know.
Yeah, when I landed yesterday at Epley, I was like, there's something going on with baseball. I know.
Did it greet you? Did they have a big banner inside of all the construction at Epley?
Yes.
This is the home of the Big Ten baseball tournament.
That's
Welcome.
Right. Did see those new bathrooms, though?
They're going to get saved because Nebraska's going to make the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
If not,
no.
You'd be relying on the Bumblebees. All right, take a break. Come back, Evan Bland, with thoughts on the final weekend of the regular season and what happened at Haymarket Park this weekend, winning 2 of 3 against Michigan. Good weekend for Nebraska and Creighton, both in a good spot to make their conference tournament. Creighton's already in. Can Creighton get the number 1 seed? We'll dive into that coming up in the next hour as well in 1620 The Zone. Hey, you don't hear this very often, but thank you, NCAA.
Whoa. What do they do?
Wait a minute. So I was corrected. They do not like being referred to as NCAA. NCAA.
I don't give a damn what they want me to call them or not.
You know my call on when Omaha clinched the spot in the tournament?
Yes.
And I said AA?
Yeah.
I was corrected via DM.
Why?
Yeah, they like to be called NCAA, not NCAA.
That wonderful moment, and that's what they take from it.
When you're that
caught me off guard a little bit.
When you're that unorganized and you're that just honestly the NCAA, when you're that stupid, I'll call you whatever I want to call you. Okay, don't come telling me, actually, you're supposed to call us this. No, get out of here.
But thank you to the NCAA. Because it would have been too easy to put Nebraska in Norman for the softball, and also to put them across from Oklahoma if Nebraska gets out of the regional and gets to a super. Don't have to worry about that. Instead, we have to worry about Nebraska and Tennessee in a super.
That'd be fun.
Doug drops a great make you think line. He said, 3 Jordans and a Gordon. You ready?
Yep.
Did you realize 3 of the all-time best Husker athletes are named Jordan? Anna Gordon, Jordy Ball, assuming, Jordan Larson, Jordan Burroughs, Alex Gordon.
Wow. That's a good one.
That is the email of the morning from Doug in the Equitable Bank inbox.
And a Tominaga. Jordan, Gordon, and Tominaga.
Just rolls right off your lips.
Yeah, I know. Put it on a T-shirt.
Evan Bland coming up in the next hour on 1620 The Zone. All right, good Monday morning. Life lesson. Beer tastes better in a beer bat.
It actually doesn't, but it doesn't.
A beer bat. When
It
you
doesn't.
don't pay $23 for the beer bat, instead you go to a minor league park and you pay $9.
No way.
Yeah.
Where do you pay $9 for a beer bat?
If you go to a minor league ballpark, beer bats are $9.
How much do you think my beer bat at Wrigley Field cost?
$23.
It was like 30. It was brutal. It's terrible. Also, it just gets all foamy at the top, and I gotta like fight through it, and then I find myself like kind of like biting down on the bat.
Stick
like, in
your
order to-
finger and
and
just
then like
swirl around
we
in
get to the point where they're not great to drink like conventionally sitting down in your seat. Like you gotta like kind of like flex your hips.
Isn't that the fun of it?
Well, if I'm just watching the game and I have to like bend in a certain way so like the cup can reach my mouth, I'm not like a big fan of that. And then what happens when you're drinking your beer and then you hit the poor lady in front of you with the knob of the bat because it's too big? And
It's a
you have to-
conversation
you have to-
starter.
you have to swig it all the way back like that.
Do you
and
struggle to drink?
No, I don't. I drink pretty.
Are you like a kind of
with a beer bat in a really
like
close knit area?
Why do I think you're a beer drinker that has a little bit of stuff coming down the chin?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you're sloppy.
No,
so the beer bat is not for you.
I can't chug.
I don't think you have proper beer bat etiquette.
What is proper beer bat etiquette?
You're not hitting the person in front of you. You're not biting the bat.
I'm just saying you gotta. It's just unconventional. Like it's not comfortable
Just put
to
it
drink
right
the
there
beer.
on your thigh. Hold it up. Beer bat is.
Why don't you just
thing
get a
of-
regular cup and you just drink a regular beer at a game?
Because I don't want to be regular. I want to be different. I want to drink beer out of a beer bat.
Welcome
and then
to
once you go to a ballpark, you take the beer bat home, and that's for the rest of your life. That's how you drink beer.
Well,
now there's a lot of beer in there.
Can you imagine?
So I'm not advocating, every day or.
Can you imagine? It's just like a Wednesday afternoon. You're just walking around your house drinking water out of a beer bat.
That maybe life is better when things are consumed out of a beer bat.
How do you even put
All you
that?
gotta-
Where
hey,
do you even
listen-
put the beer bat in your
hey,
home? It's not
hey.
going to fit in your cabinet.
There is never a bad night when you're on the porch and you're drinking something out of a beer bat and you got Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan on.
Okay, well, when you set up the scene like that, I agree, but I
Hell
could just
yes.
have it in a regular cup as well and still have a great time.
Try it. Try and shake up your life a little bit.
Toys don't make everything better.
When you get a little bit older
yeah.
in relationships, get back to me. Okay. So yesterday,
By the way, I set that one up. I knew what I was doing.
just keeping
there.
it moving.
I knew what I
Keeping
was
it moving.
doing there.
Yesterday, softball, Nebraska is a 2 seed. They're going to Colin Baton Rouge. I actually like their setup there. Do like their setup. Now, Omaha, the number 3 seed, and Mike Hurd, who wins for the 3rd straight year the Summit League, he has turned Omaha softball, which 6 years ago was 4-43, into the best job in the Summit League. And it might be the job in the Summit League that is actually the top job in the Summit League, but he has turned it into the facility they play in.
Sure.
His ability to recruit, his ability to coach. He gets back to the NCAA tournament, 3rd straight year, but this time with 2 different aces. Cam Meyer last year is one of the best pitchers in the history of the program. Matija Graf this year has been dominant. They got sent to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's about an opportunity. Might be a little bit rough, but last year they got sent to Columbia and they got all the way to Sunday. And a lot of the players that have been on the last 2 teams that went to LSU and Mizzou in the postseason are there. Never say never.
It's going to be tough.
Going to be tough, but it's a great opportunity to play in a place that loves their softball. And just from the highlights, Oklahoma's new softball stadium. Come on.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hey, the scoreboard is the shape of Oklahoma.
Is it
Yes,
actually?
it is. Yeah.
What did they do on the Panhandle? What did they do?
The whole scoreboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but like that little the little line that comes out. Is there anything?
They've got the whole thing, the outline.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, they're softball. I mean, they take softball seriously there, and they've won
Oh, yeah.
championships, and they're 45-7. They may not have behind Sam Landry though. They don't have a lot of depth in the circle. But it's a great opportunity to go down and play in a place that loves their softball. Norman, and then, of course, Oklahoma City.
Well, I was reading the article in the Omaha World Herald today, and a couple of the players talking about it. And, the attitude is, obviously Oklahoma's a good team, and they're going to give them their best shot. And, they got to end up,
You got to beat Cal first.
Got to beat Cal first in order to play them. But, there definitely is the right attitude there with, look, we're probably never, going to play in front of this many people in this nice of a stadium, too many times in our career. And so just soaking up the moment. But what Coach Hurd has done, they made their debut in the NCAA tournament in 2023. And now 3 straight years. I mean, just absolutely incredible what they've done, and great year for Omaha in the Summit League. I mean, the Summit League is on notice now about this little tiny Midwestern school that's in a Dakota Conference that now has won their softball tournament and their basketball tournament, and could have an opportunity to end up winning the baseball tournament.
I think because baseball is in 2 weeks at Tal Anderson, I think the last 2 championships in the Summit League have been won by Omaha. Men's basketball and softball.
Has track, I guess track would be I don't know.
Yeah,
but I'm getting granular there. That's me getting super technical.
No, hey, I didn't know for the longest time that Omaha had a track and field program because they don't have a track.
I was going to ask that.
They have a cross country. Now I get it cross country, but they have a track and field program until Sammy Schmidt, who is well before your time, came and dominated. I was like, how do they have a track and field program? They don't have a track except for inside a Sapp Fieldhouse.
Where's Nebraska track and field running at? Because the track that they used to have.
No, they run it down at State Fair Park.
Okay.
Or I guess, what do they call it? The Innovation Campus now? They have, it's not finished yet, but they do. I don't think they can host, but they are able to practice.
Gotcha.
Where they are.
Yeah.
And I think Omaha, their home track might be Buell or Millard North.
In a high school?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they don't have a track.
Yeah, no. Maybe build one. I don't know.
So Nebraska softball is, as we mentioned earlier, going to Baton Rouge. They're number 2 seed. LSU is the number 1 seed. They are a national seed, which the majority of the national seeds are from the SEC. It's kind of like college baseball, where it's all SEC friendly.
Yeah.
Like I think you'll get 5 of the 8 teams in Oklahoma City will be out of the SEC conference. But it is interesting to hear people talk about Shohei Ball, of the athletes at Nebraska. And what she did, what was announced on Friday, is jaw-dropping.
Oh,
Player of the year, pitcher of the year, player of the year, pitcher of the year, player of the year, pitcher of the year in the Big Ten for softball. The same person who is hitting, 458, 570 ERA, 254 strikeouts. I mean, on and on and on and on. But yet they're going to be relegated in their first game to be playing against UConn on ESPN+. But she is one of the bigger stories in the tournament. Is also, like LSU is probably pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And they've got some NCAA history. But the fact that you go, I think Nebraska's got a good chance to get to Oklahoma City. And it's one player, Shohei Ball.
It's incredible.
The confidence, there's only a few athletes that I've covered at Nebraska that when they either took the mound or went into the circle were like, oh, they're going to win. Peaches James in softball. Ironically, the 2 greatest softball players are from the same high school.
That's awesome.
20 years apart. Shane Comine on Friday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Burroughs, when they'd like, your weight class is up there, Jordan. I went 128-20 as a wrestler at Nebraska. Or like Tommy Frazier. Like certain athletes that doesn't matter what's around them, because they are who they are, it gives you confidence that they have a chance. And that's kind of like, I think Nebraska softball's next 2 weeks are, and it's because of 98.
It's
they're not all 98,
no.
but she's the line, you only go as far as blank.
Yeah.
I mean,
you only go as far as the best player here. I mean, and she's absolutely incredible. The impact too. Like, she is going to go down as one of the greatest women's athletes in Nebraska, just athletic history, period, end of story. And it took her 1 year. It took her 1 year to do that. And like, we'll see what happens. She's got another year, right? Because she got a medical red shirt. So we'll see what happens next season. But like the fact that already, if she were to have just hung it up after this year, said, you know what, I'm done, we'd all look back on the season and be like, wow, she's one of the best to ever play sports here as a woman in Nebraska, period, end of story. The fact that she accomplished that in just one season just goes to show how dominant, she's been this year. And the fact that Nebraska softball is, in an SEC regional and a lot of people are excited about it and like their chances for it just goes to show the impact that she's had on this team. And so I think it's going to be really, really exciting. And it's always fun when, you have a Nebraska. I've said this over and over again. It's like beating a dead horse, but like if you build it, they will come with Nebraska athletics. If you build a roster that wins, if you build a roster that's exciting, if you have athletes that turn into, I don't want to call them characters, but people that are easy to root for, you are going to have a lot of support, right? And that's just kind of what it's been with Nebraska softball this season. You have the superstar, you have the team around them, and now people are legitimately excited to watch Nebraska softball in May. It's great.
I'm scrolling here. I think they do this about every 10 years. So the Omaha World Herald put out the 100 greatest athletes, Nebraska athletes, not just if you are a Nebraska native.
Oh, okay.
And we've had these really, really good debates in the past. I don't know, because like Dirk was big with this. I think Sam and Chattel I think it's every 10 years they revisit this.
Okay.
Of the athletes that will get the biggest bump. Now, Jordy, of course, will. I mean, she had an incredible high school career. And now her career in college at Oklahoma. Bud Crawford also will get a gigantic bump. So Bud, this might be every 5 years. This may be 2020. Bud was the 35th on this list. Okay, so this came out in 2020. So I think it's every 5 years they update this list. So Bud Crawford and Jordy Ball will be two athletes in particular that will get big bumps. Jordan Larson has added a medal, an Olympic medal. So she'll get another bump on this. I'm trying to think where Jordy is here. I got to ask when they're going to update this list.
Sure.
Because if it's every 5 years, we are doing it now.
You would be in the process of beginning list season, baby. I love a list. Love a list. We can talk about it. That'd be a good time. But she's she's already had an incredible banner career at Oklahoma, right? I mean, the two national championships, how dominant she's been, and also, too, not just throughout the season, but the performances that she's put on specifically at the College World Series, right? The fact that she's come in here and in her first full year of playing has injected the excitement that we have now in Nebraska softball heading into the playoffs is absolutely incredible. And it's one of those things where she came in and she committed to the team, and you're hoping you have these high expectations, but kind of in the back of your head, you're like, well, I don't know. It might be a little bit different. Maybe the expectations are too high. Like, I don't want to get overexcited. It's just one player, right? It's not like they're bringing in a bunch of transfers or just bringing in one high impact player. And after 1 year, they've exceeded those expectations, and it's been everything that you could think of in terms of her connection to the state and just her performance. She's just great. She's just great at softball.
Bob writes in. He said, I'm intimately familiar with the discussions about this top 100 list. He goes, do you think Bud Crawford will crack the top 10? And if Bud Crawford is in the top 10, who would you knock out? I think the top 5 is set. Bob Gibson, Gail Sayers. Do we really need Grover Cleveland Alexander, number 3?
Probably.
Bob Boozer, who probably doesn't get as much run as he should.
He does not.
Johnny is 5th. Lloyd Hahn, you remember Lloyd Hahn?
Of course I do.
From the Olympics. Richie Ashburn.
Ooh.
Amon Green is in the top 10. Tom Kropp, who probably should be higher on this list at number 9. Tom Kropp is first of all, one of the best people I've ever met, but also one of the greatest athletes in the history of Nebraska. Then Jordan Larson is 10th. Would the Hahn family be upset if Lloyd got pushed back and out of the top 10 so we could insert Bud Crawford? Has Bud Crawford done enough to be in the top 10 100 greatest athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. He absolutely has. I mean,
He was 35th 5 years ago.
He is really 35th 5 years ago.
Well, he had just started to rack
beating
up
the top
rack up
guys,
some
yeah.
hardware.
I mean, Bud Crawford, if he ends up beating Canelo in September, is going to go down as probably the best, one of the better boxers, if not the best boxer of this generation. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good question because I know that like lists like that matter a lot to certain people and may not matter as much to other
these
people.
are great. Hey, this list generates a
lot
great
of interest.
discussion. Yeah.
I think Bud deserves it, especially if he beats Canelo in September. I mean, he is going to go down as one of the greatest just boxers, period, end of story of all time. The problem is that he just did it in the wrong era where, unfortunately, we don't really give that much of a damn about boxing. You know, if he accomplished what he accomplished now back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, he would be a way more of a legendary name, right? I mean, so that's the disappointing part of it all, but absolutely he deserves to be in that top 10.
Question here before the break. This comes from Colin into the Equitable Bank inbox. He goes, Gary, tell me if I'm wrong. With Jordy being a generational talent and winning player and pitcher of the year, shouldn't the team be better? Not hosting and not being a national seed is a disappointment.
They ended up being, the number 23 ranked team in the Big Ten. I think only the Pac-12 schools were the only ones that finished above them in the conference. And so if the Pac-12 were still alive, they'd be the top team in the Big Ten in that regard. I don't think when you end up being ranked to end the regular season and you make a run in the Big Ten tournament like they did, I don't think you can call this a disappointment at all. Also, too, they're going to have a shot to win their regional. Like it's not as if they are, the 32nd 2 seed playing in, against the top seed. I mean, they very much are they're going to be very competitive against LSU. So I wouldn't call this a disappointment at all.
Well, I don't think they had a chance to host when the Big Ten tournament started. Not beating UCLA kind of stung on Friday. They have a couple of unfortunate losses early in the year that are on their ledger. I mean, they've had a great year. They might hit 100 home runs. They're 39 and 13.
That's a great.
They're not on the level of the 2013 team, which might be Rhonda's best team. They're good, and I think they actually got their path is not bad. I think it'll be Nebraska and Tennessee in a super to go to Oklahoma City. I think Nebraska gets out of Baton Rouge.
Unless Nebraska, reschedules and plays up Bowling Green.
I see what you did there. Evan Bland going to join us before the hour is over on Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. So just one announcement today on the schedule release. Just the first game on Thursday. Nothing yet.
Yeah, nothing yet. I'm happy with it. I'll take Eagles Cowboys. I need Pittsburgh though in a primetime game. I don't know against who, but I would like.
So you can watch Aaron Rodgers?
No, so we can just have that build up, so we just don't stop talking about Aaron Rodgers because I really, really enjoy that. I don't know if you can tell the sarcasm in my voice because I know that is coming, and we are just going to spend way too much time talking about that guy and his new team they are going to be so mediocre this season. Like they are not going to be contenders in the AFC. They're going to be fine. They're going to do what they always do. They'll go 9-8. You'll have 3 weeks where you're like, oh, maybe the Steelers are legit. And then they'll end up losing like 5 of the last 7 games of the year, limp into the playoffs. And then that's it. That's just what the Steelers have done the last 5 years.
You think his decision comes tomorrow?
I think so.
Schedule release is on Wednesday.
Do you think he's going to do that to be petty, or do you think the NFL already knows?
The NFL already knows.
Yeah.
I mean, the Steelers are already popular, so they're going to get their fair share of primetime games.
Why hasn't he signed yet? Is it just because he wants us to talk about him in May and it's working?
There's probably no urgency for him to sign because OTAs are a couple weeks?
Yeah. Been through the rookie mini camps. I love breaking down the Shador Sanders film at a rookie mini camp in Cleveland.
I hope you're being sarcastic.
I'm being super sarcastic.
Thank you. Because there's a word that I've muted.
Elite?
Shadir.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a media battle of choosing your favorite quarterback.
I feel
Cleveland.
bad for Dylan Gabriel.
Well, he might end up with the Saints. Him and Kenny Pickett and Jameis Winston could go to New Orleans. So it actually might work out.
Tyler Shuck, it's your show, baby.
It's so odd to have 2 guys who were the face of a football program that you have entirely different opinions on. Now, I don't think people are doing Shador any favors by speaking for him or speaking out. But the like of Travis Hunter compared to Shador, I'm a huge Travis Hunter fan. I hope he balls out in Jacksonville. I hope he does everything that he can do because I think that is a grade A dude.
Good human.
On the field and off the field, I almost to the point I might even buy a jersey.
Really?
I love Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter is the real deal. I think he's a good kid. I think he means well.
I agree.
He's not caught up in all that other stuff. He just wants to be a kid that is extremely talented playing football.
Exactly. He just happens to be better than just about everyone, but he's just a great dude.
Great guy to have a flight with.
Here is Random Mike. Good morning.
Hey, guys, I want to apologize for my last call when I went overboard on how great the softball team was and Jordy and changing everything. And I slandered Peach's teammates, if you recall. Jordy, I think she totally deserves that award. Never been done before in the Big Ten. But she had one of her worst games, particularly offensively. I mean, and I thought the question was, how would her team do against a pitcher that pitches like her, kind of a left-handed version with the great rise ball? And what I was hoping was, because the team seemed to be that way, was that they were prepared for this kind of thing, and she helped them prepare. I mean, what better way to prepare for Jordy? A player like her is to face her, even though she's not left-handed, and that didn't happen. But she isn't perfect, and she's had some less than. Ohio State beat the hell out of her earlier in the year, but she has a way of reacting to a less than great performance by being better than ever. So I'm real curious to see what happens, and if things go really well, she'll be on that short list of the greatest athletes ever. I mean, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. No, without doubt.
So I'm real anxious to see what happens. But I thought she'd be ready. She'd know how to face a player kind of like her. And look, if she has a decent offensive game, there's a good chance they win the game. And then if they win the next game, then
well, they would. I would have liked their matchup with Michigan, definitely. I mean, the UCLA is extremely good. That she just was not. She wasn't as dominating against a much better lineup, and they lost 4-2.
Yeah, it was a ball game, and I really
she better be ready to pitch. She better be ready to pitch a lot. I don't know that they can come back through the losers bracket because, if she's going to throw a lot of pitches this weekend. But I think
should she pitch the first game?
Will she pitch the first game?
I mean, she probably will, but you definitely want her for the second game if you win.
Yeah, I think because then you go on to Saturday. No, I think she'll pitch as much as she can possibly pitch. But if they end up in a loser's bracket and you're forced to pitch your number 2, that's where things get a little bit sideways.
Yeah, but her pitching 2 games in a row.
Yeah. Well, I could see her pitching 3, maybe even 4 in a row. But I don't know about I would feel better if you got to Sunday and you were 2-0 and she's pitching in game 3.
Yeah, but she has a great way of reacting when things don't go real well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I went a little overboard, and I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh, you're good, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for calling.
All right. Evan Bland's going to join us here in a little bit. Quick one here. I know you spent some time with alums from Creighton baseball that were in town. And Creighton will go into the final weekend. Let's see. I think they got to go 3-0 at Georgetown.
They have to have a clean sweep in order to.
So they got to play all 3
Biggies.
games first and foremost.
Yeah.
Right. Because UConn is 17-4.
They're 17-4 right now.
But they have put themselves in a prime position. The one thing about Ed, this was his last weekend and last game yesterday. I don't know that we've talked about. There's an end of an era. There are very few athletic directors that are on the Mount Rushmore of your respective athletic departments.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Rasmussen is. It's the end of an era.
Oh,
like three of the longest tenured, and Mac is still here, but he's, you now know that we're towards the end. So Kirsten, Ed, and Mac. It's kind of it is an end of a Bruce Rasmussen era, which you go into an era of, okay, Marcus Blossom has made the 2 hires. Let's say he's made 3.
Yeah.
2 of them basically were promoted internally, if you want to consider Coach Huss was internal.
Sure.
And then one from the outside in Mark Kingston. Is you already maybe had a little trepidation about Marcus's time at Creighton. It's like an end of an era.
It's not like an end of an era. It definitely is an end of an era. When you have 3 coaches who've been synonymous with not just their sports that they've coached, but Creighton athletics in general. And, I was at the game on Friday and Saturday, so I don't know. I know that Coach Ed Service talked on the Sunday game I think real briefly. I think he took the microphone and said some words or something like that. But there were, talking with the people that I was with, it was kind of a surreal moment for those guys that I was hanging out with watching the games. And I was actually able to talk to some of the guys who play on Creighton baseball currently. And it is a little like you're still in the middle of the season. You're still battling for the Big East regular season title. You know that there's a shot that you can make the NCAA tournament. But then also on the other side of your mind, you're like, damn, like this is going to be a very different program at the end of this year. And so balancing those things, I think that there's been a lot of, hey, they're gonna play hard for Ed and they're gonna play hard for their coach at the last season. But I do think too, there's been it must be difficult in a way for some of those guys, I think, to kind of balance both of, hey, we're trying to play and we're trying to win and we're a good team, but also next year is going to be very different. And this is a changing
You think you think about that though in the moment? Like if you have eligibility to come back next year?
I think you do. I think you think about everything nowadays when in this day and age of college sports where you have the portal and you have opportunities to you have your best decisions and do what's good for you and stuff like that. I think and also too, just the emotions of it, right? Of Coach Ed Service. John Walker wrote in this article today. It was really great in the Omaha World Herald about how it's really weird that he's never going to come back into the dugout, at Charles Schwab Field and walking through that tunnel for the very last time after 21 years. Like the emotions of that, for sure, I think have more than likely, I'm just speculating here, but just the human aspect of it definitely has bled into that program.
I'd come back next year with the excitement that you possibly be playing 3 games at Mark Light Stadium in Coral Gables that apparently Creighton and Omaha or Creighton and Miami might be playing next year in the non-con.
But it definitely is an end of an era. I mean, you got 3 coaches who have put in multiple decades worth of work.
It's the Raz era.
Who are now gone, which is crazy.
All right, Evan Bland going to join us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in, Gary and Matt, as we wait for Tracy Smith to exit the stadium after being ejected on Saturday. Took his nice, sweet time to get out of the ballpark after Haligso's home run. We welcome in Evan Bland of the World Herald. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, it's one of the better walks of shame in sports right now, and it's been a while since we've seen that. I remember John Sheff at Maryland had a similar one a few years back. But when you go from that first base dugout and walk around, you're getting an earful from the fans, and I'm pretty sure Tracy Smith on his way out was talking to the Nebraska bullpen.
He was,
because it was related to that fair or foul ball, and I'd like to think, I don't know this, but I'd like to think he was saying, "You guys know it was foul."
Yeah, I know that Nebraska being in the Big Ten, there have been some good games with Iowa and some back and forth because of the natural rivalry, and there's Nebraskans and Iowans playing on both roster. But I would hope, and I don't know how the scheduling works for Big Ten baseball, you could make a request that Nebraska and Michigan should play every year, either in Lincoln or Ann Arbor, because this weekend felt like 2019. And you look at Eric Bakich didn't like Nebraska. Tracy Smith from his time at Indiana and now in Michigan doesn't like Nebraska. I'm sure Will has a little bit of a for Michigan. I'd love to see this as a permanent rivalry in the Big Ten for Nebraska's standpoint.
Yeah, I'm with you. That series they had in Ann Arbor 2 years ago was really competitive. The one in Lincoln in 22, certainly the one that you mentioned in 19 was probably the gold standard. I mean, that was Nebraska won that series, which helped them get in that large, and Michigan did just enough later to almost go the distance in the College World Series. And so I think the programs recruit similarly. They kind of focus on athleticism and pitching development and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I would love that. Like, there are maybe just a handful of teams where Nebraska has really kind of developed that sort of emotional history with in the Big Ten. I think, Michigan, certainly one of those teams. And they had a lot to play for this weekend too. There's plenty on the line for those guys. So sign me up. I'll sign that petition if it's going around.
Hey, Evan, how much different do you think this season is if Tucker Timmerman doesn't take a baseball to the face early in the year?
Yeah, it's one of the great what ifs of the season. I thought it was notable that Will Bolt came out and said, like, hey, if Timmerman had been healthy, he would have been in the starting rotation well before last weekend. Yeah. And so you start thinking back about what that could have looked like. I mean, I don't know where he would have fit in a month ago, because a month ago Will Walsh was rolling pretty well. Maybe Timmerman was the Sunday guy, or maybe they just moved Walsh and Horn back and stuck Timmerman in there. I don't know how it would have looked, but there's probably, I don't know, a great number of innings that Nebraska had to fill elsewhere with freshmen, with guys that maybe they didn't think were quite ready or were put into bigger spots than they were comfortable with. And now you've got a guy like Timmerman back here at the end who is fresh. His arms, his arm was never hurt. It was his face, obviously. So he's fresher. He's got that competitive nature to him that's just kind of a half tick above, I think, like your wins above replacement type pitcher that would be out there. So it's going to be one of those interesting things now here the rest of the way. Like, if he can do it again at Purdue, and then suddenly Nebraska feels like it has a legitimate, dangerous starter for the Big Ten tournament, like, who knows what that could look like. And the question this weekend for the first time became, okay, now you miss Timmerman out of the bullpen because he started for you on Friday. And then, Will Walsh, what does he do? He comes in and gives you 7 perfect outs, 7 up, 7 down. So it sets up in an interesting way where, and the way they use Walsh is interesting too, because you think about the challenge for opposing hitters where you've got Ty Horn, who's a righty throwing mid-90s stuff, and you go lefty with a junk throwing southpaw in Walsh. It's a challenge for hitters. Sure. So maybe Nebraska found something at this point. It probably would have looked different if Timmerman were in that rotation, but I think they'll take it here better late than never.
Do you think, and I know you still have 3 games left against Purdue, and then you have the Big Ten tournament, but when this season is over and we tell the story about this team, do you think it'll be more so about the inconsistencies, or more so about, man, they really just got hurt, especially in the rotation?
Well, I mean, it's both. Like I don't think you can blame one thing or the other. Like we never saw, I mean, outside of maybe one start, great Mason McConaughey this year, the guy who was a preseason All-American. So it's not like he'd been just dazzling before he went down. You expect he would have figured it out. But I think when you talk about McConaughey and Timmerman, I mean, those are probably two of the top three arms Nebraska was relying on this year. You throw in Ty Horn in that mix. And I would say their second bullpen arm might have been Jalen Worthley, who's been sick and ineffective at times. And so what they had been counting on from a pitching standpoint ended up looking a lot different than what it was. I still think, though, the big disappointment has to be offensively. And it's because you had so many older bats. You had so much of the lineup back from last year. And last year's offense wasn't great. It was average nationally. But I think it had an identity. You kind of knew what it was going to be on the base paths. You knew it was going to work some walks, put the ball in play, pressure the defense. And you look up here late in the year, I mean, this is a scoring offense that's outside the top 200. It's right near the bottom quarter of the Big Ten right now. Not a lot of pop, a lot of mistakes on the base paths. And then Nebraska, the last couple of games anyways, had to navigate without Ty Stone, who gets hit in the hand or in the wrist. And now it's a couple of weeks without Max Butenbach, who's under the weather. So it's been a lineup that's struggled anyway. Mm-hmm. And then it's worked through some injuries in addition to that. So I think that's where I probably start is the offense regressing, the pitching injuries. And then I would also say the schedule being more difficult probably than even was anticipated just because of the logistics and how some of these teams they played ended up doing.
Sure. You've used a couple of phrases here about inconsistencies and then, oh, okay, I see that. And I immediately think, and kudos to you, and I hope that Sam puts your story on the Christos up for an award. I think highly of you, Evan. I really enjoyed reading that story because I know Dad and I know Son. And we know Dad, Monty, and we're talking about Drew Christo, by the way, what Dad did from Kearney to Nebraska. And, Monty is everywhere in the community. I see him during the winter. He's a season ticket holder for Omaha men's basketball, sits right on the baseline. I watched Drew in high school at Elkhorn, and I watched him first on the football field, and I'm like, wow, he could play Division I football as a tight end. And then I watched him play basketball, and I'm like, this is a great athlete. And then, of course, he was blowing everybody away in the spring when he was pitching for Elkhorn High. And you know what the expectations were when he turned down the draft to come to Nebraska, and he has ridden the roller coaster. Fantastic story. But when you're talking to Dad and you're talking to Son, and you've covered Drew for all 4 plus years, are there any regrets? Anything you think that Drew would have done different or wishes would have gone different during his career at Nebraska?
I mean, I didn't get that sense. Obviously, he wished the results would have been different. And, I asked him too, like, what were your expectations going to Nebraska? Like, did you think it was going to be smooth sailing as a starter? And he's like, I don't know. I just kind of took it every one day at a time and kind of wherever they needed me is how it would go. I've talked to players through the years at Nebraska whose careers maybe didn't quite live up to what they thought. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it was injuries played a part, and sometimes, they got the yips or whatever. And I thought Drew's story was so interesting because he was healthy the whole time. The velocity was good. He pitched on almost every day of the week, just about every role that you could imagine. But like, he's a guy at the end of the day who wasn't and isn't bitter about it, isn't kind of kicking himself. Like, he made a conscious effort to say, I'm going to control what I can control, which is being a good teammate, which was inspired by his dad, Monty, and what he did at Nebraska. And you see a guy who's going to empty the tank for whatever this team needs the rest of this season, going to give pro ball a chance. And however it shakes out, it'll shake out. But hey, he's going to go into the medical field and impact people in a different way after this. I just thought his story was so interesting because not only of where he's going and how he kind of stands out as a baseball player going to the medical field. You don't see a ton of that. But then just the expectation piece too. Like, if he had been a a walk-on or sort of a middle-of-the-class kind of guy, I think you'd look back at his career and say, yeah, he did pretty well. He was right in there. But when you put the backdrop of top 70 national recruit who turned down Stanford, who turned down the draft twice, like it colors that perception, I think, of his legacy at Nebraska and his career. So I hope people, we're able to see kind of some of the impact that goes on with him behind the scenes. It's not as obvious maybe when he's on the mound, and he's clearly a guy whose best days are still ahead of him.
Shifting over to football here, I think that, and we're going to be talking about it all the way leading up to their first game in Arrowhead, but the most important thing for Nebraska football outside of winning games is the development of Dylan Raiola and him taking that next step. But Evan, what is a realistic expectation in your mind for Dylan this season in terms of just pure stats and throwing the ball and improvement?
Well, I think it's probably what Nebraska's been harping on this whole offseason: third down efficiency, and really kind of the theme of bringing in Dana Holgerson, which is, paring down the offensive playbook and making the routine plays look routine. Like, I think there were times when we saw Raiola flash that arm talent last year, and you're just like, whoa. And I remember he made a throw in the Iowa game last year where a lot of the Iowa writers, you could just hear him kind of go, wow, that's something that they haven't seen. That's kind of the next thing for me is like, okay, if Nebraska's paring things down, is this the year they start to develop a little bit of an offensive identity? I think that's the thing that's been eluding this offense for a long time, is like, you could look at an Iowa or a Minnesota or an Ohio State or whomever and say, yeah, you have a pretty good idea of what they do well and what they're going to do in a key moment. Nebraska's kind of been trying to be a jack of all trades. It's been a master of none for a long time. So that's kind of where it starts to me. Like, can they execute swing passes efficiently to where you don't think about it, or screens? Can the short plays be sort of automatic, and then the bigger plays be where talent really takes over and becomes obvious? That's kind of where I guess I would start with Raiola. And then, some of the little stuff too, like, is how much more active will he be as a scrambler? All that's been made of him losing a little bit of weight. Yeah. We really didn't see him comfortable kind of stepping up and scrambling until maybe the Indiana game or the Ohio State game last year. How much more of an emphasis will that be? If he's Mahomes Jr., like we see Patrick Mahomes making those back-breaking plays where he's scrambling all the time in those key spots. So maybe that's another step that he's able to take too. But I think even, like, we'll never really know, but even if Dylan Raiola stayed the same and you see the upgrades that Nebraska's made at the skill position spots, I think there would already be progress just because of what he has to work with at receiver. So you combine some of the personnel upgrades around him with some of these little things, his body and the playbook and things like that. I think, that should reflect, and maybe, Nebraska had 5 games last year where they came down to the last drive. They had a chance to win, and they didn't win any of them. Like, even if you're talking about a lot of these little games and they can flip 2 of those games, 3 of those games, you're talking about a much more exciting season even than last year.
Hey, one quick thing here before we let you go. How many wins does Nebraska need this weekend in West Lafayette to ensure the season continues next week in Omaha?
I spent probably more time than I want to talk about last night going through scenarios. Actually, I'm going to have a piece out this morning, I hope. The bottom line is they could technically get swept and still make it in, but I think you win one and you're almost certainly in. They could finish, if everything breaks right for them, they could finish as high as 5th. And if everything breaks wrong, they finish outside the top 12. So there's if you want to get real sicko, there's a scenario where they could get swept and finish in a 7-way tie for 9th. So nice. We'll see how it all shakes out.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Evan, we appreciate it as always. Again, great story about the Christos. That's a fantastic family.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it, guys. See ya.
It's Evan Bland from the World Herald. Drew Christo is one of the best high school athletes I've ever seen. And he's also on the rare list of, so he was a super stater in football, won a state title, His last year was the COVID year, Mark Wortman's last year. Then he was All-State basketball in B, and then he was the top prospect. He was a super stater in baseball. He's one of the best high school athletes who I thought would walk into Lincoln, and I thought, here we go, because his stuff was electric. And his teammates will tell the story about he showed up in the first fall and got hit pretty hard in fall ball. Like guys were hitting at 440, 450. And it was like, welcome, this isn't Nebraska high school baseball anymore. But I will give him this. It would have been very easy for him to mope around, and he has fought through some things, and he has had his high moments and his low moments. And then I look at yesterday, 1-1 ball game, and he has to come in and, it looked like things were going to get sideways, kept Nebraska in the game. They eventually got beat 3-1, but he's persevered. And last year, at the end of last year, he was pitching really, really well. That's the Drew Christo we think.
Yeah.
That you should have seen because I didn't think he'd be here for his entire career. I thought he'd be gone after his junior year. So that's somebody I'm rooting for. I'm going to, all bias aside, I'm rooting for Drew to finish strong and to get that moment, and then maybe to get an opportunity to play professional baseball somewhere. But man, in the history of Elkhorn athletes, from our good friend Jay Moore, and Robinson that went to Notre Dame, Drew Christo might be the best male athlete ever at Elkhorn. He's incredible in high school.
I was there for, I think it was like the first spring game. It was like the intra-squad spring game where he pitched, and he did kind of get hit a little bit in that game. But watching him pitch, how big he was, how strong he looked, just the speed of his fastball. Like, it was obvious that, he has just a lot of tools. And, he was a guy who, a lot of flashes. You saw the flashes. You saw the ability to be incredibly effective, and he was effective. But it just was one of those things where it just seemed like he could never fully put it together. But he still, when there were a couple outings last year where, man, you were like, dude, he was pumping, and he looked really, really good. But just guy, and to your credit, and I don't know him all that well, but it's one of those things where in this day and age, a guy like that may have moved on, may have transferred, may have went to a different school, may have packed it up and said, the grass is greener on the other side. Why didn't he?
Because his dad didn't do the same thing. When it would have been easy for him to leave.
Yeah.
When he lost his job as a starting quarterback in Nebraska in '98.
And I give a ton of respect to him for staying, for sticking it out, and committing to Coach Bolt, committing to that team, and every day stepping up to the mound and trying to help his team in whatever way to win. So I have a ton of respect for him in that regard.
All right, last hour is ahead of Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. All right, a lot of stuff involving ESPN.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee, who, whatever you think of McAfee, WWE made a smart involvement with him. Actually, it was a brilliant move to involve McAfee in WWE. He got the biggest pop the other night at Backlash. Now he got his arse kicked in a marathon, and I'll be curious to see what he looks like today.
Yeah,
but
probably in a neck brace.
It was entertaining, but he got a pop. But he also had a cryptic, long tweet about might be his future at ESPN. Then you have the ESPN NBA halftime show where Stephen A. Smith is overexposed.
Yes.
Stephen A. Smith is everywhere.
Yes.
Stephen A. Smith is talented at certain things he does, but sometimes you can have way too much of Stephen A. Smith. And now you have a halftime show that has not a lot of chemistry, not a lot of juice to it. And this isn't comparing it to Inside the NBA. This is just ESPN talent-wise. I think Malika Andrews can be a good host. I think she's with the three wrong people.
I agree.
And then ESPN is making more news this morning with Rich Eisen.
Interesting. Very, very interesting ad from ESPN, just because Rich Eisen makes jokes about the worldwide leader. He
used to be there.
Yeah. Well, so that's why he makes jokes about him, about his former employer and his time there.
Him and Dan Patrick.
And I still am. I watch the Rich Eisen show just about every day. Now I watch it on YouTube because they are on, I think they're on Westwood 1. I don't know what radio station they're on, but they do.
I think you're right.
I think they're on Westwood 1, and they do a simulcast, so they're on the radio, but then they're also had the TV, and the TV's always going. But it's on free, like the Roku channel, which I don't know how many people really know about the Roku channel.
Hold on. Oh, I know about the Roku channel because I tried to download it yesterday to watch the Cubs-Mets game.
Yeah.
Let's don't do that anymore. I don't care if it was free. The picture wasn't great.
Yeah.
I might be old, but I think I'm kind of tech savvy. I had a lot of trouble with that, but continue on.
Well, I'm just saying the Roku channel, it's like, I don't even know what the hell it is. I guess it's a channel that's connected with the TVs that they sell. So much so, though,
It's a channel that is on my phone now.
Is it your remote is on your phone?
No, I downloaded the app to watch the game yesterday, and it took forever.
You don't delete it right after? Are you ever going to need to use the Roku channel?
No,
app
I'm
again?
a hoarder of apps on my phone. I don't.
What? You don't clear out the cache?
Because sometimes I get emotional. Like I have not deleted the Masters or the March Madness app.
What
yet.
is your problem?
I get very emotional. I get tied to my apps.
You're taking up space in your phone.
I paid to have a big phone. I got my space.
I am always, my phone literally like undownloads apps so it like can create more space on my phone automatically. I'm like up to the max in terms of storage. You have to delete your apps.
No, I can't leave the Masters.
What are you going to do with the Masters app?
I can't. Midcoast Sports Plus, Nebraska Score Feed, Hulu, Peacock.
That's Summit League Plus. There's Peacock. You don't.
Teamworks. I've got to be on Teamworks for another job.
Do you have
my Venmo app?
Do you have GroupMe in there?
No.
You're the type of guy.
But I have a lot of hotel and airline apps.
So I was about to say, you probably have 5 different airline apps.
And I got my Great Clips app.
All this to say, though, Rich Eisen was on the Roku channel. No one knows what the Roku channel is, so much so that I watch him on YouTube. Like, that's how I watch his show. But he embeds a lot of jabs and shots at ESPN and people who come up, and sometimes they'll say the worldwide leader really like snarky and sarcastically and whatnot. So it's interesting. With ESPN, man, like I would have to think they are investing a lot of money in Rich Eisen to come back to their network, and that entire show to come to their network too, because it's not just Rich Eisen. There's Chris Brockman, who is a staple of that show. You have TJ, who's a staple of that show. And then I wonder if that includes this Rich Eisen podcast network that he has, that has a bunch of different, podcasts that do. I think they have about 4 or 5 right now, that at least that I know of. So I don't know. It seems like we could be trending on the McAfee out, Eisen in territory.
So I just, This is from Andrew Marchand, who is Mr. Sports Media. Eisen will take the Rich Eisen show from Roku. ESPN will be in the fall. There is a strong possibility, because his show, is it 11 to 2 now?
It's 11 to 2.
Live 11 to 2.
Live 11 to 2.
could also be on ESPN Radio, which ESPN Radio is, hasn't been the same for a long time.
They need that too, ESPN Radio, in my opinion.
A lot of people, though, hey, I'm glad. I'm actually, for our business,
sure,
I'm glad ESPN Radio isn't very good.
Why do you say that?
Because
we were just talking about this the other day.
That means more local.
Yeah.
Yep.
That means there are more local chances to have local live radio instead of national radio. There is not enough of a banger of ESPN Radio personalities that make you go, okay, I will always choose this over the local. Sure. But because of markets that have to, now some markets financially can't do it, but other markets, like until recently, ESPN Radio had a local show here in town.
Yeah.
And now ESPN Radio might not even have the Huskers. I mean, and just go all ESPN. So not having great ESPN programming, sometimes it forces you to look local, which I can appreciate because I think we need to keep this forum alive. So the thing here is just scanning this.
Sure.
Just like McAfee's program, Eisen's program will be licensed by ESPN so that he gets the ownership and editorial control.
Yeah. Because it's a full, so his show is his show.
Yep.
Like it is
like McAfee.
Like it is not like, hey, there's a director, there's a like it is the world according to Rich Eisen over there. They do what Rich wants to do, and it's a damn good show because he's damn good at his job. And I'll say this, their cachet of guests that they have come on that show is incredible. I think if we're talking about pure lineup perspective of not only just writers and reporters and media members, but they have Larry David on every year. They have Jerry Seinfeld on. They have, top directors on. They have, I think Christopher Nolan did a really popular interview on the Rich Eisen show. Like he's a
great interviewer.
He's got that LA, Hollywood connection where it really is I love the show. It's a little different from what ESPN has been doing. It really is, because there's a lot of the get up and the first takes and the yelling and the debate shows. And then you have McAfee and kind of that tomfoolery, where I would say that Rich Eisen is definitely more closer to the Dan Patrick school of doing broadcast television. So it definitely is kind of a shift, if you will, in mindset for ESPN bringing on Eisen.
Is this part of the kind of the standalone ESPN? Where it's different from ESPN Plus. You don't need a cable subscription, and it's going to give you your own ESPN kind of, because I know that they wanted, or I think they are creating a standalone direct to consumer streaming service.
Really?
That's
probably
so
the
this
bigger
must be
picture
the
here.
flagship of this, is getting Eisen to bring his show to this.
Is this
because you got to give content people want to buy?
This won't be on TV then, or it will be on cable?
Well, if it's going to be 11 to 2 Central Time, McAfee's show is 11 to 1. Now, again, McAfee had a really cryptic tweet, and they butted heads since he took over. I don't think Eisen's going to be able to, or wants to swear and do all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's very different.
First class.
Now, here's one thing. If they were to have him do ESPN Radio, Mike Greenberg used to do ESPN Radio from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Okay, that was like the slot. Now Greenberg was never there.
He used to work with Mike Golick.
He was always.
He did.
That was a good
That's
show.
when ESPN Radio changed.
Oh hell, that was a good show.
Well, and then
that really good shows.
Then they had Colin Cowherd. They would go from their morning show to Colin Cowherd.
That's elite.
It was damn good.
I mean, that's elite. But so Greenberg would do it, but then Greenberg got tied up in too many things where it was like Hembo doing all that stuff, and it was the Greeny show, and Greeny on was on twice every 5 days. So now I think it's just the Hembo show, and
I haven't listened to ESPN Radio in years.
I know, but 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I'm curious if they're going to have Eisen do radio. Maybe they fit him in to that 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. slot, and then they would have to completely adjust a lot of their programming to do it. So there could be massive changes.
You're spot on
network.
about local though, because that's what's made the Zone great all these years. And I said this when we first talked way back when I was, when you asked me if I was wearing pants in the interview, and I said if I was wearing shorts.
Yeah.
But he had a
suit.
He had a sport coat on.
Yeah.
And I could tell him he was wearing a sport coat, nice dress shirt, and a tie.
And he knew right away.
I said, "Are you wearing pants?"
Yeah. Right away, I was like, "I like this guy."
Were you like, "Hey, you're not very, very important here. Very, very important."
It was summer though, so why would I wear pants? But I said then, and I still stick by it. The reason why local radio, I was just talking with a friend over the weekend about this, is when the team, so in this case, it's the Huskers, when something happens, good or bad, you want to be here first thing after the game, but then on Monday morning, because those are my guys. I got to hear what they have to say. Tell me it's going to be okay, or tell me it's not going to be okay, and why. You're not going to get that from the network radio. You're going to get their slants.
You know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
You know that we're going to talk about the Nebraska Cornhuskers and Creighton and Omaha.
The people here become an extended family to the people, to the fans.
You know, locally, they're going to talk about what you're interested in locally. I think that's a big problem with just all national networks in general, is that if I'm a fan of the Carolina Panthers, like, how often are they really going to talk about my team? You know, when I tune into a national radio show or a national television show, how much attention am I really going to get?
And even then, what do they know?
And
Because
exactly,
people here, they've built the contacts. They
Now-
know the people. They know the history and the background.
I do like NFL Live on ESPN. Now that's during like the
That's still at Windy
midday.
Nick's.
Just a simulcast of what's on TV.
No, I think it's its own separate show with Mina Kimes and Marcellus Wiley,
I've
and
been
then
out
they
for a
bring in
long time.
Orlovsky, and then they also bring in all the different local reporters who are there on the scene and whatnot, and they do a really good job of making sure, hey, we're covering every team. But like, I think
Still
one of the
prefer the
biggest
NFL
reasons
Network.
why ESPN gets a lot of flack and why, you know, maybe we think more negatively about them now than previous is it's not a joke when we say all they talk about is the Jets and the Cowboys and the Lakers. Like, that's a lot about what they talk about. They talk a lot about those teams. They talk so much about the New York Knicks and these
The audience though eats that up.
Yep.
I mean,
Unfortunately. Ovi breaks a record. Let's compare it to LeBron. Really?
Yeah. Man,
But
PK.
that's why you go to the league
ratings.
networks.
it is it's kind of interesting in local radio that in the upcoming year where you're going to have a new voice of Nebraska football, you may not have an Omaha affiliate.
Yeah.
Like
How
you
weird.
wouldn't be able to listen to
Wow.
the games here in Omaha.
That is crazy.
Never thought you'd see that too.
Oh, no.
The
For
history and the station, the legends.
KFAB forever. And now you might not have, any Husker athletics on the radio in Omaha. You'd have to either hope to pick up a big signal, KRVN, anything from Lincoln, or listen on your phone.
Yep.
Yeah, on an app.
That's brutal. That really is.
Well, people are saying the Big Ten killed radio.
Did it?
It did, in my
Yeah.
opinion, and having all the games on TV
Yeah. Yeah.
really lessened the radio product. Not the quality,
Sure.
because the people that are on doing the games
Are
have
still
been
phenomenal.
great.
Yeah.
But in terms of the impact where people are listening to the games, it's also a little bit older. The younger fan isn't listening to the radio for the games as much as the older fan did.
No.
But you're watching more on TV than you are on radio. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I think it's so important that us radio stations are able to sync up.
Yeah.
Like KLIN does a great job. Our sister station down in Lincoln, and they've done this for a long time, is you sync up the radio with the TV because there is a natural delay. But the Big Ten coming on board where there's more games on TV, I think is taken away from the amount of people that listen to the radio. I even look at the ratings for Husker sports in this town, and they're not like what they used to be.
Yeah.
And
the interest is still there.
Oh, the
But-
interest is definitely there, but
I-
you're watching TV instead of the radio. Like that's why I think of all the game day programming outside of the play-by-play involving Nebraska football, Big Red Overreaction is the best programming.
Yeah.
And I would say it if we did a pregame show, but I'm glad that we don't do a pregame show. Why? Because all the auxiliary programming I think is more popular. Is the play-by-play, I'm going to go to the TV.
Yeah.
But I can't go to the TV and hear the guys on the zone talk about reaction on the postgame.
And that's what I want after
Yeah.
the game.
But
and I want to hear the other listeners like me. Am I mad? Should I be this mad? Oh yeah, I should be mad.
But I think another thing too, though, at least my generation not listening to radio, right? It has a lot to do with the fact that like our phones are alarm clocks, and we don't buy those big clocks anymore that also have a radio dial, and we're not really buying like handheld radios.
Yeah,
right?
your life is in the palm of your hand on your phone.
And I'm way more likely, in my opinion, to download an app and watch a game than I am to go out and buy a radio and listen to the radio, or I'm more likely to download an app
on
And
the
that's coming
radio.
from someone who does
And-
it or did it in college. So and has friends that do it and did it.
And I also
I get
do
that.
think too, like just in general, a lot of these radio apps that I've downloaded on my phone are kind of a pain in the butt to like manage. There's a lot of like advertising on it. There's a lot of exiting. There's a lot of like, I kind of get confused. And this isn't just one app. These are multiple apps where I feel like,
Oh no, you sound like me. It's okay.
it's just not as easy to maneuver as Peacock is, right? With Peacock, you just download the Peacock app, you make your account, and you put your debit card in, you know exactly where the game is. Where some of these other apps, like, it is a little bit harder to download that and have that available for you. So I think there are a lot of just really interesting aspects that go into all of that and the decline of just listening to local radio in general.
One of the smartest thing they did was they got rid of the restriction on where you could listen to the game. Like I think now all Nebraska athletics, it doesn't matter where you are in the country, you can listen, because they used to.
My wife hated that back.
They used to put a buffer in to protect the local station, and I don't think that's been the case for a couple of years now. So doesn't matter where you're at, you can listen to the Husker games for free on the
That's
app.
great. There's some teams who don't have that. I mean, the NFL teams don't have that. They have massive blackouts that are like across state lines too, where there are a lot of people who don't live in the state or don't live in the city, and they don't get the local television game, and then for whatever reason they can't listen to the radio, and that's been really, really tough for some leagues. And so
my wife hated that in Kansas City because she wanted to listen to Greg, rest in peace, and you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
There was not an affiliate in Kansas City
No.
anymore like there used to be.
Yeah, because they stopped paying for the time on the radio station.
Well, that's a prerequisite. You got to get the bag.
You got to pay.
Yes.
Well, one unique thing about Nebraska fans is the Las Vegans for Nebraska. They would pay for time on the radio.
Seattle and Phoenix. I remember that in high school. Like, whoa.
Yeah, you'd pay for that radio station.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be a big wattage station.
Sure.
But
But
to
you could
carry
get
the
the
Nebraska
Huskers.
games, carry the Nebraska football games.
I didn't know that. That's incredible.
Yeah. To me, it just right away, I'm a young age. I'm in high school. I'm thinking, fan base is awesome. The fact that
Sure.
that far away, and first of all, how'd they get that many out there? Then you grow up and you see, oh, it makes total sense. Totally get it.
All right, quick break. We'll come back. I'm just looking through some RPI math.
God bless Evan Bland, by the way, because I
general?
sat down
'Cause they're
last
70th.
I sat down and I tried looking through the Big Ten standings and the schedules, and after about 5 minutes, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this math to figure out where they're going to end up based on whatever result. So shout out to Evan for doing all the work that I did not want to do.
Nebraska's 70th. Creighton is 56th and could win the
Wow.
regular season, but that doesn't ensure you a trip to the NCAA tournament. Iowa JD says, so you're saying time for Iowa to come into Nebraska. Welcome, Gary Dolphin on 1110 KFAB. Yeah, no.
I don't think that'd go over well.
Now, they are on WHO, which is a blowtorch out of Des Moines, 1040. Yeah. Are the Hawkeye games carried? Does Boomer still carry Iowa games?
I knew they did, but I don't know if they still do. Yeah.
Smart radio station.
Yeah.
You know which is even a smarter radio station? This one. I don't carry any Iowa games.
Yeah. Hope not.
We're back with more Gary and Matt after this. People are telling us that, yes, Iowa has an affiliate in Omaha, but do they have an affiliate in Lincoln? Does Nebraska have an affiliate in Iowa City? Does Ohio State have an affiliate in Ann Arbor?
Hey, that's what we need. We need radio wars. That's what we need. We need some beef. We need some like cross-state Big Ten. I mean, Nebraska needs rivals. Best way to establish a rivalry is all of a sudden in Maryland, it's like, oh my God, I can listen to the Huskers.
Imagine the reaction, though, in Ann Arbor if you were an affiliate of Ohio State football.
You'd be the most hated radio station.
That would not go well.
By far.
You'd have to be being paid a lot of money to be an affiliate because the pushback that you would get to be an Ohio State affiliate in Ann Arbor.
But I feel like they would pop some pretty good ratings just because people would like
hate
tune
listen?
in.
No.
Just to, a hate listen.
I mean, Paul Keels is fantastic, but I think they're gonna listen.
Like, you know how I hate watch every New York Knicks game? Like, I feel like there would be
we got a big one tonight.
There's a massive one tonight. I feel like there would be a lot of hate listeners from Michigan fans listening to Ohio State radio, just absolutely trying to crap on the team. You know, just random calls in, being like, Julian Sayan's terrible.
1st and 10 for the Buckeyes.
But would they have a talk show if they just carry the games and they don't have to worry about anything? Then the check cashing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
if I was like Ohio State and I was running the radio network, I would try and get an affiliate in the Detroit area. Ann Arbor would be the best because you could brag about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's bragging rights, big time.
But if I was that radio station in Ann Arbor, there's no chance that I'm having a talk show. I'm like a low wattage.
That's what I'm saying.
Just a kind of a throwaway station that carries the games.
No, it's Rush Limbaugh's on, and then it's
the 1-watt blowtorch of the county.
And here's Sean Hannity.
Baseball. By the way, speaking of, you asked Evan about pitching.
Poor Buddy Black got fired. Put him out of his misery. Good Lord.
I haven't read the Bob Nightingale article, but it's titled "It's Not Bud Black's Fault," so I can't.
You think?
I can't.
He never had a chance.
He didn't get fired after they lost 21-0 Saturday. He got fired after they won their 7th game of the year of the 40 they played.
That's the way to go. Go on top.
And he becomes the fall guy. Did he make some of those deals? Did he trade Arenado?
Nope.
Was he the one that wanted to sign Chris Bryant?
No.
Okay.
Yep. They did him a favor.
Yeah.
Like Doug Moe said, do we come and pick up the check?
Why are the Rockies, who have awful ownership and a bad general manager who gets to stay?
Okay.
Why do we pick and choose as the commissioner of baseball of what franchises we go after? Like, they are all after the Rays.
Sure.
Now, the Rays have been successful. Do they spend a ton of money? No, but they've been successful. Why do we leave the White Sox in Colorado alone? It seems like they're being treated differently. And,
1,000,000%.
And here's the thing. People are saying, hey, Rocky fans, don't go to the games. You can't quit. It's a beautiful ballpark.
Yep.
When the weather is nice outside, they had 38,000 there on Saturday night to watch their team get beat 21-0. But it seems like the Colorado Rocky fans have put up with some bad baseball, but they have these great views. Major League Baseball doesn't seem to have any sense of energy of like, Colorado, good market. How about we do something?
No, I mean, like, it's about the bottom line, but it also is politics too, because Rob Manfred knows that he can't push Jerry Reinsdorf to do anything. Jerry is a stubborn old man who's never going to sell the White Sox. He's not going to be able to push his buttons or push him around or anything like that. So he just gets left alone, and people still come to the White Sox games or whatever. And they're still in Chicago, and they're still like this brand, for the league. And so they just leave him alone. It's just easy to pick on Tampa because it's just, it's a smaller market. They don't get a ton of fans there.
Which is too bad because they do a lot with what they have.
The stadium, even before it got torn to smithereens, still wasn't like the best place to go and watch games. It really just comes down to politics and knowing ownership and just past success as well, where it's just like, I think it's a good question. I really don't have the full answer to it other than I just think Manfred has friends. And if you're friends with Manfred, you're not going to get messed with probably. That's just how that league works. How close are you with Rob? And then Rob helps you out, and then if you're not close with Rob's going to be a pain in your butt. And
Adam Silver, I just want you to know I love you and I look forward to a #1 pick tonight. Do what you got to do.
Adam Silver, there's a lot of, it's funny how the world
it turns
comes around quickly, because all of a sudden you're looking at Roger Goodell and you're like, he's actually doing a pretty good job. And you look at Adam Silver, and you're like, you have. I mean,
They used to
they've
chant
grown
his
the
name
game
at the draft.
internationally, but domestically, Adam Silver, in my opinion, has failed the NBA at this point.
Love you, Adam. Just
because of
make
start
sure that
because
ball.
of start times.
Because of start times. Well, the fact that he gives his players all of the leeway in the world. They have the longest leash ever. And he's allowed player media to. Brian Windhorst there was a really good article written with Brian Windhorst, who's talking about how we don't have as good enough stories anymore about the NBA and about the league because of the limiting of access, and that we've allowed player media to, develop and to take over. And some players are really good at player media, and some players are really bad at player media and don't know how to put themselves in the right image, don't know how to make themselves look good to the fan. And Adam Silver has completely allowed that to happen. And that's why anytime we talk about the NBA as a league, it's not about good things. It's about how they're failing.
So I did not hear the Windhorst segment. What would be a commissioner's role? Because those guys that have podcasts, or are you
sure
have podcasts
I'm
or go
talking
on
more
podcasts?
so just overall image, right? Just overall, like John Morant throwing grenades into the crowd and like doing
not real
doing the
grenades. That would be
point-gun
morbid.
fingers, or like the
You're just tuning in.
softness of the game, or allowing referees to kind of just take over in the last couple of minutes, or just like flopping in general, and guys just always complaining. And it just seems like there's no one. Like when David Stern was the commissioner of the NBA, he was in charge. It was
That's
his.
why they called him the
was-
Sternado.
It was his NBA, and he made rulings, and he made it very clear what they were going to do and what direction they were going in. Adam Silver just
He also said he
hasn't
wanted
done that.
Lakers versus Lakers in the finals.
And
So
that's
what do you
fine.
think he should do?
It's not.
I think it should be more
Yeah.
strict with these guys. I think
Like
he
spank
should. I
them?
think he should suspend them hard. I can't believe he gave John Morant the leash that he gave him. I can't believe that he's given Draymond Green the leash that he's given him. I think that he definitely needs to come down harder. He definitely needs to establish himself as, hey, I'm the dude in charge. He's got to get his referees in order and say, hey, the game is not about you. He's got to tell the players, hey, I'm sick and tired of everybody thinking we're soft. How about after you don't complain after every single foul call, right? How about you just get up and we just play the game because it's hurting our image? How about when we have people pay thousands of dollars to come to a city to watch an all-star game, you guys aren't just running around jogging like we're at a park. How about you
that'll go over
actually
well.
give a damn about your fans? That's what I would do.
And how do
if
you
I were
do
the
that?
commissioner. Just keep yelling and suspending people, and just keep laying down and seriously, you just keep laying down the hammer. And just because he hasn't done that, he's just kind of let
You two
everybody
fight to the
do
death.
whatever the hell they've wanted to do. And in doing that, the NBA has looked bad. And I would also tell ESPN, hey, stop talking about 4 teams over and over and over again. And how about when you make a partnership with us, you do more to help elevate our game instead of just crapping on LeBron and having 90s basketball players talk about how great the product used to be.
And there
That's
it
my
is.
rant. I'm done.
I mean, ESPN looks at from the business side of, if you want Diet Coke, we're going to serve you Diet Coke. So they must have an appetite for the Lakers, LeBron.
No, they do.
The Knicks.
And that's fine. But also, too, like there
Boston.
is some, I know that there are some fans who are frustrated when the Cleveland Cavaliers, okay,
Who will be done tomorrow.
incredible regular season. And we were barely talking about them. Like, they went on the 18-game win streak, and it wasn't until like it got to 15 that it was on the ticker, And we know that if other teams were doing that had bigger markets, we would be fawning over it. We'd be talking about it all the time. I know that rubs Cavaliers fans the wrong way. Same thing with Oklahoma City Thunder fans, who that team had an incredible year, and yet it felt like, man, we really have to win 67 games for someone to give a damn about.
They need to win a championship.
But isn't that professional sports in a small market? Doesn't matter if it's the NBA.
Nobody covered the Spurs when they were losing, and then they started winning.
It's just the unfortunate thing of
yeah,
Cleveland and
I'm
Oklahoma City are the 2 number 1
but
seeds.
we can give
they're
a
in.
better effort toward it, in my opinion. We can do a little. I'm not saying, because I know what you're saying, and you're absolutely right, where there is an interest in all those things, but we could do a better job, right? I'm not saying that ESPN's got to turn into Cleveland Cavalier hour, Oklahoma City Thunder hour, but we can get to the point where these arguments about us not talking about smaller markets aren't valid.
No, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I think you have to look at it from, we spend a lot of money to be a partner of the NBA. We're not going to make our money back by talking about Cleveland and Oklahoma City and presenting Cleveland and Oklahoma City. Whether it's just the Red Sox and the Yankees are on all the time.
Even when they're not
Even
playing.
when they're not good. And you're like, come on, you've got so many other young players and young stars to feature, but I keep getting a dose of Saturday afternoon baseball on Fox, and it's the Yankees and Red Sox who are going to play 5 hours.
I mean,
look at even the attention towards it's essentially over, Indiana-Cleveland series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If Jokic was not involved, how much attention would be given to the Oklahoma City
I don't think
Denver
a ton either.
series?
None.
No.
It was like
It wouldn't-
Melo's
it really
Nuggets.
wouldn't be. But
Golden State, Minnesota is getting the run as these series. And then, of course, because Boston and New York, the two markets on the East Coast, they get the most attention and the number one crew.
But we have, like, how we look at players and how we think of players in part is painted by the media, is in part painted by how we talk about these guys. And every time I see a clip on Twitter or a clip on Instagram about the ESPN's NBA coverage, it's Kendrick Perkins talking bad about a player, Stephen A. Smith getting into a fight with LeBron James. It's all this like negative stuff. And I know that negativity sells, and I'm not saying that we have to eliminate
there's hope for me.
negativity, but ESPN
You want them to appeal to the casual fan.
I want them to appeal to the casual
hardcore
fan.
fan will watch no matter what, but the casual fan,
the
casual fan tunes in the last couple of days. One, they're like, man, Steve Kerr was smart to bench Tatum in the Olympics. They think the league is too easy because it's too easy to take threes.
Yes.
And I have no idea what I'm watching between Oklahoma City and Denver because the shooting is awful and guys are just beating the crap out of each other and there is no flow to the game.
That was bad
yesterday. Does the NBA appeal to do they want the casual fan, or are they just going to lean into the hardcore fan that they know will never go away?
I think they need to lean in. Honestly, I would do a little bit of both because I think the hardcore fan as well doesn't get all the attention that maybe they would. If you're a hardcore like Washington Wizards fan, right?
Mhm.
And I know that there probably aren't like
could be a game-changing night for you.
Yeah. But like,
Not
I'm
since they
sure
got
that
Wes
you
Unseld.
would, even as a hardcore, you're like, man, like, why they never talk about the Wizards, right? They never really like go in depth about them. And
Now,
like,
would you?
Now, okay,
Yeah.
from time to time, right? From time to time, the same
How
thing.
great was
let's look
Liddell
at TNT.
Eccles?
Let's throw it over to TNT
Mm-hmm.
because you have Charles Barkley, who's their top voice, who goes, "Why would I watch the Wizards? The Wizards suck. The Wizards are terrible."
He's telling the
Like
truth.
that makes you feel bad about yourself already before you even turn on the game to watch your terrible team.
Be better.
You know, like, well, okay, but we're just talking about coverage. We're not.
I
talking
know
about
that, but I'm saying if they don't
team.
like it, be better.
But at the same time, yeah, I would.
Chuck
I
isn't
would,
wrong.
I would just like these networks to just throw the NBA a little bit of a bone, and I would like the NBA to help them do that as well, right? Because there's a yin and a yang here. The NBA, in my opinion, gives their players way too much leeway to make themselves look like idiots, and ESPN goes ahead and they hammer them and they absolutely damage how we look at certain players, which then damages the product, which then, could wane on interest, right? And so I think they just both together have to work a little bit corresponsively in like, all right, we're going to give you more access and we're going to give you the ability to tell better stories, but you got to be, you got to accentuate those stories, right? Because all we talked about for a week was LeBron James talked to Stephen A. Smith on the sideline. It became this whole saga and nobody looked good at the end of that.
So you're the hardcore fan that does not like that, but ESPN they get exactly what they want. They get clicks, they get discussion.
They do.
Remember Game 7 last
But it's
year?
about the wrong things.
Okay, I love that you're going to bat for the Washington Wizards of the world, but couldn't you say the same thing about college football?
Oh,
in what way? Like,
what do we get in college football?
And what
we
are
get a
gonna
lot
keep
of talk
getting?
about Alabama.
We get what do we get on our TVs?
Paul.
We get a lot of Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
World famous.
If you win, you get a forum.
Yeah. No, you're correct in that.
I mean,
regard.
are you going with the same?
But college,
are you
college
saying like,
football
man,
is
hey,
different.
hey, ESPN, hey, tell us the story about David Braun. Tell us about Rutgers.
I don't think you can compare.
It was a good story.
I don't think you can compare those two because college football is very, very different in the regard that there are teams who just know that kind of no matter what they do, they're not going to be able to compete at the highest level. Okay. Or they're not going to be able to consistently compete at the highest level. It would take a miracle for some of these smaller schools to every single year
be at the top. Where in the NBA, the playing field is level, right? Everybody's got the same salary cap. Everybody's got the same pool of players you can draft, the same pool of players you can trade from. And so there is I feel like there's more of a runway for scrutiny in the NBA because you're playing with, hey, Wizards, you're playing with the same tools that the Warriors are playing with here, right? Or you're playing with the same tools that the Pistons are playing with. They are better than you. You got to figure it out. We're going to talk about you because you have to get better. I don't think you can ever look at Northwestern and be like, hey, why aren't you as good as Ohio State? Why can't you win like Ohio State?
Maybe not from that angle, but to have a discussion. You don't care that the national shows don't talk about Northwestern. But you would be upset if they're not talking about
133 teams, you know?
Well, there's really only 2 conferences that have teams.
Well, at this point, yeah.
And one of them just happens to have 133.
I think from the standpoint of the networks, you're going to serve what your consumers are going to eat up and what they want. It's just like radio.
But
I mean, the old adage of play the hits. Like, I'm not going to go on a show if I'm an NBA, unless I am an NBA centric like SiriusXM, where I have more of a forum and I'm going to talk about wide ranging and maybe hit on every other team.
Sure.
I'm not going to go on a national show. What does it get? What benefit is it for TNT to talk about the Wizards?
Unless the Wizards
are good.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they deserve it.
Then they deserve it.
But when they're 14 and 48, I'm not going to talk about them.
Okay. But if you're a Wizards fan and you go a whole year and they never talk about your team, okay? Why would you want to watch ESPN for basketball?
You probably aren't. You're probably watching all your local.
You're probably watching all local.
But aren't you going to go local over national anyhow because they know your team more?
But
Shout
let's
out
add
Dad.
to this, right? So they're not talking about, I'm a Wizards fan. They're not talking about the Wizards. I'm not going to watch ESPN, which means that I miss out on all the other ESPN conversations in which when they do promote these guys and they do try and lift these guys and they do try and create these stories, I'm now missing out on, how the top provider for the NBA is presenting the product, right? So now I'm missing out on all that stuff, but I wouldn't be missing out if every once in a while they're like, hey, we're just going to run a couple minute segment, or we're going to talk about this team real quick, or we're going to make sure that we're hitting all bases, right? And so now I tune in. Now I am watching ESPN. Now I do know more about the league. Now the league does benefit from that. Now I continue to watch more ESPN because I like the NBA. So I'm not saying we need to have, Sacramento Kings hour, every single day. But the fact that the stigma exists that there's like half the league that we don't talk about, that needs to change.
I appreciate your passion, but unfortunately that has been that way for a long, long time.
I know.
Look at last year. Knicks are in Game 7, and we got Stephen A. walking into Madison Square Garden like he's a damn player.
And
so,
I'm not saying that.
I mean, privately, and I like Oklahoma City. Probably privately, the ESPN, because they have the West, and of course they have the finals. They're like, please, Nuggets.
Yep.
Please, why did you have to lose yesterday?
Why did the Lakers have
I know
to
the NBA screwed you and they made you play 36 hours after that Friday night game, but please, we would rather have the Nuggets than the Thunder. Look they crapped all over when it was the Nuggets in Miami in the finals. Small market teams.
Yep.
I think it's just been that way.
I know.
It's been that way in the coverage because unless it changes and you say, I'm going to push back and I'm done watching ESPN, and the ratings show that they're still getting traction. I know. That's just the way it's going to be. It's in college football. It's that way too. There's 10 to 15 programs that eat up the oxygen. But unless you're good enough to get into that neighborhood, and then they start talking about you.
But you get to a point when the teams that you're always talking about are bad, and then you just get sick and tired of the product. But you are right. They're going to talk about what drives interest and what's driving the most interest. Those big markets. It's just. I'm just a small market man. I just like my small markets.
You're not alone.
And I want to grow the game a little
bit
better.
All right, we'll come back and put a wrap on this, a Monday edition of Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone is partnering up with Wellbeing Partners in the Celebrate Your Wellbeing Photo Contest. Submit a photo on how you focus on your well-being and practice self-care. Share your story online at 1620thezone.com.
Also, when you're at 1620thezone.com, go to the contest page. You could go on a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Las Vegas to see Kenny Chesney at the Sphere. Tickets, airfare, and your stay at the Luxor is covered. Go to 1620thezone.com, contest page. Put in your email. It's pretty simple like that. We'll draw names. You get another hopper. And you could be a big winner to go see Kenny Chesney. The summer of concerts kicks off on 1620 The Zone. I got stuck with a 2:30 tip on Saturday.
Yeah.
Nice weather in New York City. Everybody had to go inside.
No wonder it smells like skunk in the station right now. You're playing this song.
Oh,
big game for
hey,
our next
what
team.
happened? All of a sudden, it does smell like a skunk has entered the studio.
I think
Down
that's
below?
exactly what happened.
The
I
things
think
we're doing
right
for
here on
content
this
these
window,
days.
a skunk definitely hot. And now we are smelling it. And now I smell like a skunk. I'm going to smell like a skunk, which is going to be embarrassing.
Congratulations. First time?
No. I actually I got real close to being sprayed one time where I saw the skunk spray outside in the backyard and I was outside as well and I had to sprint in. You have to, that ruins clothes, right? Have you ever been sprayed by a skunk?
No. Skunks last summer were pretty prevalent in my neighborhood. And so I did a U-turn. I was walking along the path there on Grover.
I remember this.
And
really?
Yeah.
Nope.
Some last summer, the skunks were out more than I've ever seen them.
I've never
been sprayed, and knock on wood, never.
It smells like the cheap stuff you could buy.
Pulling into
into
work a couple days ago. I saw a raccoon, like a big,
they're up.
big
Raccoons and bunnies.
intimidating raccoon.
Big
But
bunny
I
town.
was like, I got to make sure that I get in here because those are no joke.
Crossover's coming up here in a little bit. Connor Happer will have 4 hours of Scott Frost talk.
With skunk smell.
We have not gotten to talk about Bill Belichick, but I did see they snuck it in there during the Denver-Oklahoma City game yesterday on ABC. That Good Morning America on Friday is going to have Bill Belichick on, interviewed by Michael Strahan.
Oh, okay. Jordan, is she going to be there? Is our favorite girl?
Hey, she messed things up. I think media want to present this as a good story.
Oh, totally.
But she got involved and it turned it into, all right, let's peel back some layers. Because I think everybody was going to handle Bill Belichick with kid gloves and like, hey, this is a good story. And hey, how did you guys meet? Not the negative part of it. She made it negative. It's become negative. It's become very uncomfortable. It looks like the grandfather with his granddaughter. They're at beauty pageants and the way they react with each other. If it's not, see, I don't think Strahan is the best to interview Bill Belichick. And now it'll be a softball one
I was about to say
about his book. Why doesn't he either sit down with TB12? Wouldn't that be something? They interview each other.
Oh my God, that'd be incredible.
Or go on Edelman's podcast, or how about go back to McAfee's show? Because there's one place where he is extremely comfortable.
I think he needs a proper. I don't think McAfee would do well for him. I don't think because
he would ask him
a modern day Roy
questions.
Firestone.
No, because he
wow.
He
If
was
you know,
all
you know.
Exactly.
He was all buttoned up. He was all buttoned up before McAfee, right? And so when he went on to McAfee, you saw him unbutton a little bit, and you were like, "This is cool. This is great." But this whole Jordan Hudson situation has made him fully unbuttoned, and so I don't think he needs to get more unbuttoned. I think he needs to get rebuttoned. And so you do that with your idea. I like that, the TB12, or just like a serious interview, just one, like a Big J journalist and Bill Belichick, no Jordan in the room, anything like that. Just a nice little convo to clear some things up. But it is funny. You were spot on. They were totally gonna let this ride. Okay, before she messed it up. No one was really we looked at it as a funny ha. Bill Belichick has a younger girlfriend, right? We didn't really dive deep into that's kind of creepy. That's kind of weird. We kind of just let it go. Hey, the man's going to be his man. It's whatever. This whole saga has now made people be like, no. We were right in the back of our head to think that this was weird. And now we're going to pile on you. And they make it better and better because Pablo Torre decided to choose violence and fully dive into this thing and do an investigation, and that opened it up. And then, her coming in second place could be Miss Maine. Kind of funny. It's kind of funny.
That was awkward.
Finish second. Oh,
it just feels like a grandfather with a granddaughter relationship going on. It was even more uncomfortable because he was sitting next to her dad.
And Dad's
Is Dad younger?
Yeah, that's Bill Belichick.
Is Dad younger than Bill?
Probably.
Yeah,
gotta be, right?
Having a 24-year-old.
Good Lord.
Probably in his mid-50s.
I would say so.
Sitting right next to each other.
Probably.
Coach, how good was LT?
Watching his girlfriend and and then the other one, daughter, in a bikini up on a stage. Again, who this is? Bill Belichick? You remember when everybody was upset at the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce? Now you don't even talk about them.
No, they're just
now
regular
all
American
you do
couple.
is you talk about the couple from Chapel Hill.
Isn't that crazy that we now Bill Belichick is the best thing to happen Taylor Swift? Find out next year on First Take.
I actually think the best thing that happened to that couple is we got beat in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I said we. They have been completely off the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Now he still does his podcast, and now she is in the news because of some legalities that she has been drawn into. But since the Super Bowl, they have disappeared.
Good for them.
And Travis won't reemerge for a couple of weeks when Kansas City reports again and they start going through OTAs. But in terms of being out and about and any of like TMZ is hiding in the bushes, you haven't heard very little or seen very little of them since the season ended. I wonder if they're just holed up in her place in Nashville or in New York City or like in suburban Kansas City.
Are the
Chiefs hanging out?
Are the Chiefs likable again? Did losing make you likable? Are you the likable losers?
I'm the wrong person to ask. All right. We'll reconvene tomorrow with some NBA news, maybe some scheduling news, among other things. We're going to schedule all of that. Tomorrow we'll be back with you at 10 crossovers.